Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Suited and Booted. I'm your host, Drogba. To my left, we have...
Lord Mahazi.
To my... Just next to me.
CFO. GT.
And just next to him.
Number 10.
And we're joined by a legend of the media game today. Let's give it up for Adam Peacock.
Mr.
Let's
Peacock. He's in the building.
Hello, gents.
Yeah.
It looks like a very comfy couch right now.
We'll be here a while.
Yeah. This could be a
probably
nestle.
will.
This could be a nestle pod, man.
No,
Lucky
great to be here,
listeners.
guys. Great. And honestly, fan of the pod. Love what you guys are doing. It's something different out there, and it's talking about all angles and educating people about various things in Australian football and chucking around a few opinions about everything else that happens in football. So there's no shortage of material.
Yeah, that's right. I appreciate it.
Appreciate that, man. I think, man, we could start in a lot of places, but I think you commented on our Instagram the other day, and it was probably my favourite comment we've ever received.
I did like that.
Yeah, it was so good.
Right, and I'm going to read it for the listeners who haven't seen it.
What was the context of the video again?
Well, the context of the video was me and Gav and Noor were talking about POV. You're watching football in Australia in 2007, 2008. And, you know, we're talking about you watch the A-League, it's Saturday night, and then it leads into the Premier League, you got the red button, and then Gavin's talking about how the Foxtel remote could kill someone because it's so heavy and whatever. And everyone, it went quite well. Everyone started reminiscing about those days. And Adam Peacock's comment, this was my Saturday. Play a game, shower at work. 12 hours in a shirt, tie, jacket, and shorts. Shoes were optional. Lots of football, lots of laughs, a whole pizza, 2 Red Bulls, packet of snakes, sugar hangover, and questionable parenting the next day. Glory days.
How much of that was hyperbole? Like
None. I actually left something out. I also have a can of Coke, but you can't put the word Coke there and then assumptions are made, especially in this day and age. Back then, it wasn't a thing, but it was, man, it was the sugar hangovers. I can still remember them clearly. And my wife always saying, you are such a grump. Stay away from the kids if you're going to be like this on a Sunday, because it was a long Saturday, but it went like that. But then the next day you'd kind of pay for it. Not a drop of alcohol. So
when you think of those good old days, who are your compatriots that are in the trenches with you during that time?
Oh, well, I mean, the guys on air, for a couple of years, it was Robbie Slaters, Mark Bosnich. That was the combo. That's where I kind of started on Match Day Saturday when Fox Sports decided to go, well, let's put the A-League together with the Premier League and just make it a 12-hour extravaganza or 14 hours. So,
it was too. I completely forgot about that.
so that was that was a genius bit of programming, and the A-League were down with it because they'd scheduled the matches accordingly. Like they wouldn't let, especially early in the season, they wouldn't let the 9:30 early kickoff before the clocks go back bump into a Perth home game on a Saturday night. So they'd be really good with the programming. So it worked really well. And I think helped elevate the A-League, and obviously this was the glory days of Fox when Fox was all about many sports, including football. Things change, obviously. But, yeah, you had your producers behind the scenes really putting everything together, and then us Muppets just sitting up there and talking about it and tying it all together. And then Mark Rudin kind of joined when they put Robbie Slaters back out to commentate A-League games, and then there'd be a swap over. Robbie had come in for the Premier League. So, yeah, it was just... It was my first foray into like presenting a sport. I was doing Fox Sports news reading, and then this was the one that kind of got me over to football, and off it went, and it went off for a few years.
Were you a football fan before, like you jumped into it?
No, I played. It was the sport I played as a kid. My dad was a Geordie before he passed a couple of years ago, but is a Geordie. My uncle still lives there, so we're massive Newcastle United fans. My son is. I passed that
go for now.
on to him. Yeah, kind of twisted a couple of years ago, didn't it?
Yeah, really.
They were shite, and then they're not so shite.
Are they
anymore.
the richest club in world football, by the way? Do you guys know
so.
this? Like,
Yeah.
you know how in the Premier League
as I
you can only spend what you profit. So like they can't necessarily spend everything that they want, but I'm pretty sure based off assets of owners, they might be one of the richest clubs.
One
in the world.
of, I don't think the...
I believe
They're
at the
not
time
the-
when Qual went there, they were, but I don't know.
With assets,
out.
they are. If you put it purely down to assets, but you're right, they can't spend what they are because of financial fair play. They can only spend relevant to their revenue, which at the moment is miles behind Liverpool, Manchester United, those guys.
I actually watched a short video explaining this because for me it was quite complicated. I don't know about other people listening out there, but I didn't even know this was a thing. And then obviously all the contentiousness with Man City and them breaching contracts and all that stuff. But if anyone is listening to this for the first time, go and actually watch a video of this like FIFA fair play stuff because it's actually fascinating.
Well, we beat the case.
Well, what Man City's not. Do you think Man City's done? By the way, 115 charges in like any court of law. Well, surely no one gets off 115 times.
Who knows?
Yeah.
It's lawyers at 10 paces. They've got a Lord QC KC now representing Man City. Probably the same representing the Premier League. Just at loggerheads. It's ridiculous. It's quite funny because each and every weekend, obviously, as we sit here right now, we're just off the back of Manchester City getting beaten by Bournemouth. But I know a lot of Arsenal fans, don't know if you guys do as well. They're convinced that Manchester City, it's protected against them. But then you take a step back and you go, hang on a minute. Manchester City are having this massive legal showdown with the Premier League, so how can they be wanting Manchester City to win it? So, it's funny how
he just said, reacts. Of course they are.
In
the middle of that little rant.
Everyone's trying to make all the refs are like on Manchester City side.
I'm saying Arsenal are going to come up with all their like...
They're notorious.
No, not that, I'm saying, of course, Arsenal are going to
Did you hear what Patrice Evra said about him? He goes, they're like a Netflix show. It's like you're always waiting for next season.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, I'm a Chelsea fan, so of course I'm going to say that. But let's go back to when you first started at Fox Sports.
Yeah.
Like, what was going through your head? You're walking in. There's some big names, legends of Australian football, Bosnich, Slater. What was it like, a young you walking in there? I'll never forget seeing young you on the TV, holding it down with these legends. What was going through your head? Like, talk to us about the early days, like first couple of months.
Yeah, it was easy. It was actually our second show of Matchday Saturday. I'd come off an all-nighter because my third child was born. So, it was a welcome. Yeah, it was like okay, wow. But I'd known the guys for a few years. I'd known Robbie because he's from my area in Sydney. So I kind of got to know him a bit. And they used to come down on Fox Sports News to do guest spots. And once those guys realised that you actually do respect the game, which sometimes is hard to find in Australian media, like people just do not get it in a general sense. But I think with a lot of people in football, once they realise that, he actually does know his stuff and more to the point respects the game, they're easy to get along with. So no problem whatsoever there. There were no egos and this, that and the other. It's like, Bozza at times thought he was still playing for Manchester United. And at times still does. But that's fair enough. He's been conditioned to that. Like, I'll never forget, I was reminiscing with the initial producer of the show, Matchday Saturday, a couple of days ago, Andy Hode, who's now moved into doing a lot of horse racing stuff with Entain, who own Ladbrokes. Am I allowed to say that on there? Yeah. So he reminded me of the time where someone put up a clip of an 18-year-old in an A-League game going, like, oh, wow, might have been like James Brown.
Yeah.
Remember playing for Gold Coast as a kid or Newcastle? Might have been him. It's like, oh, wow, what a goal from, say it was James Brown. What were you doing when you were 18? And this is the early days of Twitter. Boz has hopped on, responding and going, playing for Manchester United.
Oh, my God.
.xb.
XMB.
XMB.
Which I think, I'm not sure, I don't think he nicked it from him, but Miron Bleiberg used to do the same thing. He used to put
That's Jake's mate.
MB.
Shout out, Miron.
You'd have some yarns on Miron.
What do you mean? What's this MB?
Okay, so XMB, it would be like Kiss Mark Bosnich.
Correct.
But it's like
Like the end of his tweet.
Yeah.
It's like
His
officializing
sign-off.
that it was from him.
Yeah.
That the tweet was like in case anyone hacked his
So
account.
every text message, every
Text
WhatsApp
message?
message,
Text
everything, he puts XMB on it.
that is, bro.
Imagine him going at the end of everything, hey man, got the content, Lord.
What about emails? Official emails to like
He doesn't send emails.
serious things.
No.
Okay, he doesn't do emails.
No,
At
but
the end of text is hilarious. I thought
Dude,
it was
that
just
is
a Twitter
such
thing.
a
do it.
big player
Ex-Lord.
move.
Ex-Lord.
Do it.
Oi, bro, start doing that.
No,
shit.
he's one of a kind, boss. They broke the mold when he came out, so he and that to never be repeated. So, yeah, good fun.
The
good
chemistry
fella.
between you guys was
So
was like
good.
awesome.
Well, like there was no point in taking it too seriously because in my eyes, and this is just my opinion, different people do it different ways, it was a Saturday arvo. Yeah. So people on a Saturday afternoon are not sitting down to watch a budget response from the federal election or something like that. Yeah. They're looking to have a bit of fun. We're filling in people's spare time because they're sitting down to watch their team or just kicking back on a Saturday watching a bit of football. Yes, they get emotional from time to time about it, so you can't take the complete piss the whole time. But it had to have a bit of, a few laughs along the way.
Do you think it's gone a bit vanilla now from your perspective, from, obviously being in that chair before, and you, again, with quite iconic characters, Bozza and Slater and stuff like that, do you think it's gone a little bit...
safe?
Bit safe?
Maybe, but Bozza and Robbie are such big personalities, so... When you're putting the best TV shows, generally speaking, is when the cast have the best chemistry.
Yeah.
So you look at Have You Been Paying Attention on Channel 10, for instance? That just hums because of the way that they cast. And they get the right people in the right roles saying the right things at the right time. So it's not always easy to do. It's whoever's available. And I think I can't speak too much of what Channel 10 and what they do because I don't know what their aim is. But all I do know is that when we did it, that chemistry side of things was a big factor.
Looked like you were actually having fun.
Yeah, no,
actually 100%.
Having fun.
Yeah. Like all hours of the evening as well.
Yeah, you can't fake that.
Yeah.
Like there were blow ups sometimes, and they're funny.
Yeah.
Like when something went wrong, there was a blow up in the green room or blah blah blah. But it got forgotten about really quickly.
Well, speaking of blow-ups...
Jeez, I wonder where this is going.
There's a few. It's like it could go any direction, really. One of my favourite Bozza ones was the game against Oman, the rant.
Oh, yeah.
You were there. You were there next to him for that.
Yeah, so was the current Spurs manager.
The current Spurs manager was sitting on the couch.
He was on the desk.
Who was that at the time?
Ange Postecoglou.
Ange. Oh my God, Ange was in the room.
You meant at the, you thought at the
I
time.
thought I meant like the fucking, I don't know.
No, now.
Tim Sherwood or someone was sitting on the...
Wait, Maurizio Pochettino.
Poch is there, what?
Boz is yelling at Poch and he's like, what? Can't even speak English back then.
Ange Postecoglou. Oh, wow.
Yeah, Ange was there. So it was the panel that night. It was a must win. I think we were 2-0 down at halftime, 2013 World Cup qualifying. Boz had gone actually over to talk to a mate or talk to someone that he knew, but he'd watched all of the first half, and it was myself seated here. I was hosting, Robbie Slater, Ange Postecoglou, Mark Bosnich. Boz came back literally with 30 seconds to go before the break, but we knew what we were talking about. It was a disaster for the Socceroos. Holger Osek was the manager, and we got beaten twice in transition, and we weren't playing very well. And Boz just walks onto set and goes, "Come to me first." I went, "Oh, okay, righto." And then I said, it was the easiest job of all time. Welcome back. Not going well for the Socceroos. I can't remember exactly what I said. Boz, what do you reckon? Mushroom cloud. It was like, he lost it. It was like
the best.
I'm not sure
if you have I think if you have a look at it, and Ange said, did you play, was Ange your manager once upon a time?
Ange signed him.
For a period,
Yeah.
A small period.
Ange, like always kind of knows his place and everything like that. But even he was like kind of looking down at his sheet going, "Oh, this is a good one." It's like it was a beauty. It was an absolute beauty.
So you didn't really hear much from him in the lead up. Just sort of as the half ends, he goes, "You come to me."
Yeah. And generally speaking, you want to get the biggest pop of reaction off the start. You don't want to start slowly and go into it. Well, our inverted fullbacks aren't quite inverting far enough. But you don't want to get too technical early. You do that later. You get the big headline first up, and then you go into the highlights. And kind of worked on that occasion. And I think a part of it was due to the fact that he'd already locked in his trip to Brazil to follow the Socceroos. So part of it was, and I can empathise as well because it was exactly true that we all wanted to go to Brazil to watch the Socceroos play, and it was a case like it wasn't a sure thing, but in the end we got out of it.
He turns around. If you guys go out in the second half and fuck up my Brazil trip, there's going to be hell to pay.
Well, oddly, we must have got out, and taking my mind back to it, we got out of it, and Ange coached in Brazil.
So
funnily enough.
So what happened after that? We drew 2-2, and then things didn't go. We got through. We qualified. Josh Kennedy, Mark Bresciano to Josh Kennedy.
That was okay.
Against
Jesus
Iraq.
Christ.
Yep. Got through. It was fine. But then we went, they organised friendlies away. Brazil away, 6-0. France away, 6-0.
Oh.
Pop.
Jeez.
That was the morning Robbie Slater threw his pencil and nearly hit John Cosmina in the eye. So I don't know where Bozza was that morning, but
Shout out, Cosy.
that's when. But with Bozza and Robbie, I have a bit of a laugh about Bozza like blowing up that he wasn't going to go to Brazil, but down like at the heart of it all is an absolute passion for Australia to do well at football.
Yeah.
Like they've been on the world stage, they've done the hard yards to go. No Australians can actually play football, and Robbie did it through going to Belgium first and then France, where he's actually still a legend at Lens. And then he went to England. Bozza always spent his career in England, but there's a massive, massive passion there for Australian football from those guys, and it comes out in moments like that. Is it
true with Robbie Slater as well, just to his notoriety? Because he was the first Aussie to win the Premier League. Was he at Blackburn?
Yes.
Yeah, so he was the first
Premier League. Yeah, Craig Johnson did it.
Oh, Craig Johnson won the English
before it was the Premier League.
Correct.
Yeah.
But then also one of his things, and you guys will love this because they both played in Argentina. I'm pretty sure there's like some sort of fact around Diego Maradona playing against Robbie Slater and saying it was one of the hardest opponents he's ever had.
Yeah, it's his favourite story. And put it this way, if Diego Maradona goes into the dressing room and asks for you personally, I reckon I'd be telling it a few times as well. So he said Paul Wade man-marked him in that game and did an unreal job, apart from one moment where he slipped away and he set up the goal that they scored in Sydney, and then Aurelio Vidmar equalised. But after the game, Wadey tried to get his shirt, and apparently Maradona told his men or the teammates, go and get the red one. He had the flat top happening there. He had the game of his life, Rob, and it was outstanding. And he got Maradona's shirt. And he's told the story a few times.
In Argentina, you know what the red ones are for? Do you know?
No.
Isn't this bad luck in Argentina?
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
So if you didn't know, if you're a girl and you walk past one, you've got to touch your left hip. And if one walks past and you're a man, you got to touch your left ball.
Jeez.
So that's a thing.
Argentina.
That sounds like
because they had
Diego Maradona, fair play.
In that team though, they had Gary. Was it? No, it wasn't Gary McAllister. Of course not. It was McAllister, who plays for Liverpool
Alexis's
now.
dad.
His dad.
Oh, wow.
Played in that team, and I remember sitting down going, I don't know there were redheads in Argentina. Like when he came out to play, I was like, his name's McAllister. There's obviously escaped Scotland once upon a time.
There's one at Boca right now.
Can we get a quick recital of the rant? Because I have not seen this rant.
Bro,
I'm assuming a lot of listeners haven't seen this rant. Can you do a quick recital of...
He pretty much, I mean, Jerome, do you want to pull it up, man?
I mean, I could play it.
Yeah, play it.
Yeah.
Instead of us explaining it.
Bozza, how do you sum up what you've just seen? Well, I'm going to say exactly what I think Holger should be saying. Well, if he's not, then he shouldn't be there. That was an absolute pathetic first half performance. If they play like that for the next 45 minutes, they're not going to win this game. It's going to make it very difficult to qualify for the World Cup. If they don't want to be out there, they can come and tell him, look, I don't really fancy it tonight, and put somebody on who wants to be out there. Once he's calmed down and actually give him an absolute you-know-what to all of them, a few little things. If we can't get the ball early forward and they happen to come back on the edge of their box, we spoke about it beforehand. They need to be moved around. If we're going to play at 2 miles an hour, I might as well go.
I don't want to play 2 miles an hour.
That's what we need, though.
Of course.
That's good, man. That's entertaining.
The funny thing is we end up making the World Cup, though.
They probably played that for them at halftime.
Yeah,
this is what Bozza's just said. So if you guys don't get your shit together. Man. So even just going back to that panel those days, is there anything that sticks out to you that maybe the fans don't know about? Is there a story? Is there a night that always sticks out?
I got one. Brisbane-Perth grand final, Suncorp Stadium.
Yep.
A-League. Yes. So we get there. You generally travel up on the day of the game, unless you've got something to do the day before, but we're always fine about going the morning off. So we've got there, but was there a time difference?
Brisbane?
Remember. No, there wasn't at that time of the year. But anyway, we were a bit rushed. So Boz and Rob, they always like to go for a workout before going on air, which, they've like Robbie was known in England as fitness with a head and still is. He's the fittest 60-something-year-old I've ever seen. Like, he's a freak. He's a freak. He goes on that fast. He doesn't eat.
Oh, my God.
Like from 2 p.m. after 2 p.m. doesn't eat.
That's impressive.
I'd melt if I did that. Anyway.
I don't know how you enjoy life.
He does sometimes. But they decided to go for a workout before, and they said to me, do you want to come? And I said, no, I'll be right. Like, grand final, I've got to take it seriously, all that. And they said, we'll go for a workout, we'll meet you at the ground. I was like, okay, cool, no worries. Got to the ground, It's like 45 minutes before we're on. I said, they're cutting a bit fine here. Anyway, they came up to the top level at Suncorp. They're all sweaty and everything. I said, where you guys been? They went into the Perth Glory dressing room and did a workout in the dressing room. What other code would that happen? Grand final. They cleared out before Perth got there.
What?
So maybe it wasn't 45. Maybe it was like an hour and a half. So before Perth Glory got to the game, Bosnich and Slater had done a full a bodyweight circuit
in the change room.
in the change room.
I just picture
In their
yourself
gym
arriving
gear.
to
That's
a
how
game
big
and
dog they
seeing
were,
those
man.
two in there with their shirts off.
Doing push-ups.
They were running the shit back then, man, weren't they? Look,
They wanted to prepare how they wanted to prepare.
How Imagine Jerome commentating. Oh, just going for a workout. Comes up all sweaty.
But I want to know, like, did they pre-plan that? Like, we'll fucking go to the gym inside the stadium.
I think their gym that they used was closed because it was a Saturday or something like that. They didn't take that into account. They went, stuff it. We'll just go to the stadium and do it. And Robbie was the organiser probably, and he said, righto, boss, we're going to do this. So, yeah, they got out before, man. And that was the one that Perth got ripped off on. So maybe it was bad juju that they left in that dressing room.
Wow, Mark.
They got rolled.
Diego knows.
I'll never forget. They walked upstairs, like, where you guys been? He goes, they're all happy because their endorphins are released and everything. I said, I just did a workout in Perth Glory's dressing room.
God,
like,
they were doing whatever they wanted.
That's some king shit, bro.
Yeah, but
Can I just ask you about, just going back to, I know you mentioned at the start around getting the respect from those kind of guys, right? Because they're big personalities and obviously big careers. And you mentioned that you played football. Do you remember the process? I guess a little bit about your upbringing as a footballer, 2 questions. And then the second one of like getting that respect from them and how that came about.
Yeah, so my football career is basically summed up, but it didn't extend much beyond AL3s, playing local park football on the Northern Beaches. And for 10 years didn't play because I got into the media and I was working every single weekend, especially through winter. So all Saturdays were taken up, so there was just no point in playing. So that and that was before kind of five-a-side really took off and all these five-a-side courts popped up absolutely everywhere. But that was the extent of my football career, but always loved the sport and like deep affection to the Socceroos, and obviously that's now in the modern day morphed into the Matildas too, and follow their every game. But again, that respect was just due to the fact that I kind of like could hold a conversation with them about football, but not go beyond like give my opinion about what was happening out there because that's what they were there for. I was there to kind of just steer the ship and get the best out of them. So
how does that dynamic work where, because I see it now, especially with the change of guard in football media, like they have, I'm here. Like they have people that have no background in the game, that have no professional background, that are even giving opinions now. But back then, how was it trying to not overstep the line and let the pros...
Oh, it was fine because my tactical understanding of the game when I started doing it, you think you know the game, and then you sit next to those guys and you go, I don't really know the game that well. You know what I mean? Like these guys have actually played and had some coaches that have taught them so much about the game, both that they want to kind of stick to and also how not to be. I'm sure you've had coaches like that as well. And it's the same with working with guys in the media. So there was no point in me going on television and giving any kind of opinion because, especially with TV, you're stuck. You're always pushed for time. You've always got an ad break to go to. You've always got a kick-off to go to. You've always got the end of the show because the next thing's coming on air. So it's very time-orientated TV. But that's where the beauty of podcasting has kind of opened everything up. So if people want to, even if they've played the limit of AL3s, but they can understand the game tactically pretty well, give opinions, that's fine. Or give opinions about... I always made sure I gave opinions about how decisions were made, like process, structures, for instance, like refereeing, decisions made by CEOs and people of authority. But when it came to actually what a coach's decision is or a decision-making process for a player on the field, I was really kind of like, that's not my area. That's them. That's what they're here for. So I want to know what they think and maybe educate the viewers a bit more.
They were actually like great analysts, I felt at the time too.
Oh man,
Like the way they broke down games and just like particularly like their credibility in the Premier League to just give really strong opinions on Premier League games as well as Australians.
Yep.
Like you'd actually listen to them because you just pull up their CVs of what they did in the league, and it was like really spot on a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Oh man, I will never forget. I'm very picky with like my panel and pundits and commentators, and who I enjoy.
You have the
Your
opinion
panel.
on people who are giving an opinion.
Yes, exactly right. There's a few that I'm just like, I mean, especially on Talk Sport, man. Jamie O'Hara is one that I cannot listen to. All respect to Jamie O'Hara, but
Well, what about the club owner, the guy from QPR? What was his name? Simon.
Simon Jordan.
Simon Jordan.
I love him.
From Palace.
Yeah, Palace.
Come on, bro.
I love him. You know why I love him? I don't think I've ever seen anyone on football media be as bluntly honest as him. And whether people...
And shit stir.
Shit stir. He's the biggest shit stirrer ever. Maybe I see a bit of me in him. I don't know, but...
70-year-old man.
He's a man.
But that's why everyone has someone that they can relate to and
Yes.
don't like. So who you like, you might not like. You do.
right.
You
Yeah, like the
don't. So,
villain of the show or...
Yeah, that's fine. But you got to have character. Like
Yeah.
horse. Big
100%.
character. So
Yeah.
yeah, everyone had their role. And Rudes came in and tactically he gave a level of understanding, especially about the Australian game as well. So
He's another character.
That's why it worked so well in those days at Fox, because you had that balance with everything.
What would you say your most enjoyable night on the Saturday was? Like, do you remember a specific fixture or even just following the Prem? Were you guys in... Like, what does go on in the back? Are you guys... Is
like
Bozza screaming when someone scores?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. Oh, me too. Like I remember one night Newcastle got rolled late by Sunderland. It was when Paolo Di Canio went down the...
Oh, no.
We were doing the game. And until they renovated the green room at Fox Sports, there was a dent in the wall from where my phone got thrown.
Wow.
I pegged my phone. Like, I was so angry.
See?
Massive rage.
I can still be a
Massive
Chelsea...
rage.
See?
What?
I can still rage over Chelsea and make it in media.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
your
can
rage
put
is-
holes in walls.
Your rages are different, bro.
No, well... I
Well,
mean...
but would it take you a week to get over it, though?
I didn't say that.
A week?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, we had to put a ban on Jerome at some point, like because he's like just so obsessed with Chelsea. Kept referencing Chelsea into conversations.
You
that
got
weren't
kids,
even-
Jerome?
Do I have kids?
Yeah.
I don't think I'll ever have kids.
Okay. Well, that's what helps you get over things, because then the next day, what I was saying about the bad parenting, it's like it crystallises your thought a bit better. Okay, just get your mind out of what you can't control on the other side of the world, and worry.
You know
about
what? That'll
what's
work
in
until they reach a certain age where I, force them to be a Chelsea fan, and they come up and start, why were we so bad last night? And then it just rehashes. I'll tell you why, son. Because Sterling played.
There was a story. there was a story he put up. It was about 3 weeks ago. I think I sent it to Jake's when we were just laughing about it because it said like 1-1 week ruined or something.
Yeah, he said week ruined, bro. Like off a draw. I'm like, that is way
It was
too much.
Forest.
Like you're on the other side of the world, man. Like
Say when Jerome, like, they'll win, and I'll be like, thank God. This week, I've got Jerome in the pocket.
Yeah.
It's going to be all right.
So your week gets ruined by your 15-year-old forgetting her phone somewhere.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
how you get your week ruined, not
Right.
a football
Ooh.
result. So, but it's good that you're
I
passionate
can't believe
about
you have a 19-year-old son, by the way, who
Yes.
we should give a shout out. Is doing well on the football scene. But
Yeah.
that you are a babyface assassin to be a dad of what 3,
it. 4.
4,
Yeah.
and what 19's the oldest.
19, 17, 15 and 8.
How old were you when you had your first?
26? That's not
Yeah,
that
I mean that's normal for maybe not as normal now.
Yeah.
But I feel like back in your, well, even prior, like
I
all our
was
parents are
first
young.
of my mates to have one. So
Okay.
I've got a mate who's just had one. So he's done the opposite end.
And how did you navigate that terrain? You mentioned it a few times, like this dealing with an all-nighter with the kids and all that stuff, and then going on to live television and have to be sharp. How did you deal with that whole?
Oh, that was fine because you're younger and things like that. When I started at Fox, that's when we started having kids. And it was fine because I was Fox Sports News. I was home every weekend, blah, blah, blah. But then I transitioned over to football and I started doing the tennis as well. So I think when the kids were, like the first 3 were like 6, 4 and 2, 1 year I spent like 20 weeks overseas.
Oh wow.
Whoa.
With an Olympics coverage and a couple of tennis ones as well. So, yeah, that's Dad of the
You've
year.
covered some freaking sports, huh? And
Dad of the year
events.
shit, that, yeah.
What's the biggest one?
I did Wimbledon a few times, Olympics, A-League Grand Finals, though. I'm telling you, I'm not like just pissing in the pocket of football or whatever, but those A-League Grand Finals, and I don't know if we'll get onto it, but what annoyed me so much about the decision that was made a couple of years ago.
Oh, we're getting onto it.
Oh, we've got to go in. Yeah, we've got to go into the A-League.
Is that it came from a place of a complete lack of understanding about how good those nights were in those cities. And we went everywhere with them. Brisbane, Perth, Adelaide, Newcastle, Sydney, Melbourne. There wasn't a bad one.
Yeah.
There was not a bad one. Even when they were forced to make the change here in Melbourne to have Sydney-Melbourne victory at Amy because Marvel was unavailable, MCG was unavailable. They crammed 30,000 in at that atmosphere, and it helped by the fact that
Was that the one you played in?
victory 2015?
Yeah.
Yeah.
15, that was Rush.
Like, how noisy was that night?
That was one of the best grand finals ever.
Best game of my life.
Couldn't hear a thing.
Yeah.
Best football experience of my life.
Let's get to it now then. We're here. Right? So we've spoken about it. I think every football fan in this country has spoken about it a billion times with their own friendship groups or whatever on Twitter. Fox Sports, it had the A-League. It was doing well, at least from our perspective of the fans of viewership and even just people going to the games. And everyone talks about the glory days of the A-League and the rivalries and led into the Premier League and everything. Football, one-stop shop, destination, Fox Sports, football. I know this is going to be a very hard scenario to put into a few minutes, but where did it all go wrong with Fox Sports? Like when was the start of the downfall, and then when did it sort of just peter out?
It went wrong because the product was so good. And I'm not saying that just purely from a Fox Sports point of view. We were part of it, but it's also that the A-League was humming. We had the Premier League on there, one of the great products in sport, full stop, juggernaut. So what happened was that people actually saw that there's value in that, namely the Premier League. So, and that's when Optus came in. Fun story. I'd actually put my back out. I was in a full back spasm one morning.
Really?
I could not move. I was prone on the couch for 2 days, could not move. Voltaren didn't even work, blah, blah, blah. Pinged my phone one morning. Optus Sport has secured the rights to the English Premier League.
Wait, so you didn't hear in the background?
Nah, heard nothing. Didn't know. Really? Didn't know a thing. I knew the rights were up, but then you find out actually the financial. So that was a great morning. It was fantastic. So, oh, cool. My back's, and also, so is my career, maybe. No, but it was a shock, but then you look at it in the cold light of day, and it's not a shock because it's a valuable product. And Fox were paying, the figures might be wrong, but in the region of, say, 20 million a year for the rights for the Premier League. Optus came in and went 60.
I was going to say 20 sounds extremely cheap.
So it was a no-brainer that the Premier League basically go to the highest bidder.
That's Premier League Productions, isn't it?
Well, Premier League, the entity.
Okay.
So Premier League Productions is a spin-off. They get them to do the games. But Premier League, the entity, they basically operate on behalf of the 20 clubs that are in the Premier League at the time, and they, by their charter, I think, have to take the highest bid. And what's more is they do blind auctions. So you bid, and there was a famous case a few years ago where Sky didn't realise there was no other bidders, and they went nuts.
Wow.
Way above their kind of. So that happens. But back to Australian football. So that was when it kind of like, oh, okay, the A-League's going to be floating on its own on a Saturday night and a Sunday. You don't have, and there was a mass migration of subscribers because the Premier League is so popular here in Australia. And Fox had a bit to do with it because it aired it for like 20 years.
Yep.
So that's when it kind of became, okay, well, what now? And Fox was still heavily invested in the A-League then. They still were wanting to work. They helped to bring Timmy Cahill out here, Keisuke Honda as well. He was part of the marquee fund. But it just never felt the same because you didn't have that wraparound coverage with the biggest league in the world, the most watched league in the world. Not going to call it the best because everyone has their different variation of what is the best. But that then left the A-League hanging by itself out there. And that's when I felt, well, by natural attrition, it just changed. And then you go forward a few years. Yeah,
sorry, can we just get a timeline on those moments? The Optus, what year was that?
Was it
17?
The last night we had on air was Leicester winning the league.
So that was 2016,
2015, 16?
2016, I think.
Right.
Yeah, so the next year it went to
16.
Optus. at the same time, we won't go down this very boring path, but at the same time, the clubs in the A-League were trying to get control of their own destiny and trying to break away from the FA, Frank Lowy, etc., Stephen Lowy, the Congress war that went on for 4 years. So that ended at like 2018. There was the truce. And then I think eventually they got separation end of 2020, December 2020, but right in the middle of COVID. So that then as well, Fox were trying their best, but then they could see where the A-League was going. They could see that the clubs felt like they wanted to take control of their own destiny, and maybe Fox wasn't the place for them. So Fox didn't accelerate their production. You could argue that you just watch it and it looked like cameras went off, and it did happen. But that's just business. Like Fox are a business. They weren't trying to kill football. That did not happen. Because I was there for the whole thing, and I swear to God, they did not try to kill football. No way.
Because a lot of people do. I've read stuff online where people have like differing opinions, but I mean, you were in the building. So
yeah, I've read some stuff on this. Can you explain that a little bit deeper? So
because I feel like I've missed the boat there. Too.
Yeah. So you're saying Fox felt like the A-League teams were trying to go take control of their own destiny.
They were trying to sort out their own future. And Fox
when you say that, what do you mean?
As in, like, they have control instead of... Because what was happening with the A-League, it was run by Football Australia. Yep. And the clubs felt like they were hamstrung by all the parameters that Football Australia would put around the clubs and how much you could spend and how much revenue was coming in.
Did the deal with Football Australia?
Yeah, so the deal with Football Australia for the TV rights was Socceroos, Matildas, A-League, all as one bundle.
I see what you're saying. Yep.
The clubs felt like, hang on a minute, we should be able to go up and sell our own TV rights and get our own commercial arrangements, and they should be going into our coffers instead of a centralised fund, and we get a distribution. So at the time, the clubs were getting a distribution of 3.5, I think it peaked at, 3.5 million per year, which covered the salary cap for the clubs, and it felt okay, but the clubs felt that they could do better than that. They could accelerate their growth by having their own revenue stream.
And would you say this is like an organised thing amongst all the leaders of the A-League clubs, or this is a individual clubs?
No. It was very much an organised thing. I remember at the time it was Melbourne City. Simon Pearce was big on it. Greg Griffin at Adelaide.
Clive Palmer.
Clive was in and out of the building by then, unfortunately. Were you in Adelaide when Greg Griffin was owning the joint?
Yeah. Of course I was. Yep.
Greg was there. There might have been another club around there. Tony Sage was pretty vocal about it at Perth. But they were trying to get... And I get it. Like,
business move.
They saw the Premier League. They saw other leagues around the world. It's like... They feel like they're flourishing because they've got control of their own financial destiny. So they thought that they could do it. All the while, all that bickering going on, Fox is like, guys, can we worry about like maybe investing heavily in getting the in-ground experiences as good as you can? So, look, other people will say, well, what about how the mainstream media perceived football? Football's forever had that problem in Australia. Someone farts in an A-League game, it becomes a front-page problem. Like, yeah, I'm serious. Like 10 people punch on an AFL game, and it's like, oh, those.
Are you seeing the like? Because you're a Sydney sider, so you see the NRL matches. Is the like a ferociousness about the crowds in that sort of precinct of the world as well? Because I see it with AFL. Like I see kids getting sweared in front of. I see punch-ons, but you never see it make news.
No, you look at it when an umpire makes a bad decision in an AFL game, and there are like 1,000. Fully grown adults, their eyes are popping out of their head and they're calling the ump every name under the sun.
Slurs galore.
But I will say that I swear to God, like, A-League crowds have had their problems, but I feel as safe, if not safer in an A-League game, especially when they send in the 7th Legion of the Foreign Army into bloody a derby with all the bringing Robocop gear on and everything like that. But I feel as safe at an A-League game or safer than any other sporting event.
Yeah.
In Australia, it's the same.
It's crazy.
But they get treated differently because of the noise. Anyway, but that's another point. But back to your point about how it was spinning off and this natural kind of separation, it felt like. Yeah, I get how people can look at it and go, oh, well, Fox dumbed down the coverage and that's what killed off the A-League on Fox and everything like that. The business put in. And I got the ass from Fox, so I'm not sticking up for them because I'm tickling their balls and trying to like make them look like the good guys and all of this. I'm just trying to spit facts that they put in like $700 to $800 million in rights fees to broadcast football in Australia. And they got to that in 2018-19. It's like over the journey, like from the very start of the A-League when they came on board.
You said
with
about
the rights.
20 years?
Yeah, it was
over 20
2005, I think, the first one.
Yeah, right.
It's like, guys, this looks like it's reaching an end here, and which happens in all kinds of rights deals all around the world. And unfortunately, we would have loved it. I think the frustration was because it was so good in what was happening, is that people could hang on to that, but it just moved on and it went its way. And Fox, when it went to the APL and 10 came in, Fox were put in an inquiry about, we can bid. If you want us to bid, what are we looking ballpark? And they purely looked at it from a financial point of view and said, no, 10 have got the bigger bid, go for it. So that's what happened.
How long was your tenure on like the A-League and Premier League, would you say? Like from when you came in and actually started presenting to when you left?
Did my first Premier Leagues in 2008, and then I left at the end of 21.
So you were there. He was there for the best time of the A-League as well. Really.
Of course, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Like that's why people are so nostalgic about it, because, like you said, the product was so good. But I think what plays into it as well is that, I could be totally off here, and I hope I'm not. Fox were on Foxtel, not a streaming company. The way the world was moving, where every different competition was, look, okay, yes, back in the days, ESPN had Champions League or whatever. But really, if you had Foxtel, you were set.
Yeah.
If you had Foxtel, you could watch any football you want, really. They had Setanta Sports, I remember. beIN then came in. Eurosport, there was games on. Fox Sports, ESPN. Like, you could watch the games on there. But then everything splintered into streaming, music, entertainment, everything. It was not bound to happen, but it was sort of, that was just the way the world was moving, I guess.
Yeah.
In what sense? Sorry to just cut you off, but in what sense? Because that didn't happen to other leagues in the world, or didn't affect negatively the other leagues in the world, did it?
Well, you need apps. You need apps.
Apps.
For Australia, I definitely don't watch as much football now because of that's gone.
Because of how splintered it is.
And how many things you have to sign up to.
And people, like the people who want a piece of football, they realise that it is such a passionate sport. It's like, yes, people will subscribe to watch their team wherever they are in the world, be it Europe, Australia, South America, North America, whatever. So, I mean, now we're up to about, 8 different platforms that you could possibly watch a football game on.
Man.
Yeah, and you know what's funny? What's funny is I believe personally that it is harder in Europe than here, and we've still got it hard here. So, like, people, like I said, on the Fire Sticks, so many people in UK watch Optus Sport, allegedly. Like, even Premier League players, like I said, have posted on their story, and there's Optus Sport on their TV. Because Optus, for the most part, has the most competitions. So it's got Euros, World Cup, J-League, Premier League,
K-League, women's football, North American women's
everything.
football.
Yeah, North American women's football, all that.
It's not really that good though, outside of three pillars.
I mean, but it's got the most out of the rest. So Paramount has,
which highlights the point though of not being that many to watch.
Paramount has all the Asian competitions, like the Asian Confederation competitions, and A-League, FA Cup just went back to Optus.
Yep.
Amazon, do they have any? No, they've just got Doco Stan, who I'm working for now. Got the Champions League.
Europa Conference.
Those European suite. SBS have got the World Cup, Men's World Cup rights.
Yep.
I'm not sure where the Women's World Cup rights have lobbed with 10 because that was part of Football Australia's deal that they've done with the Socceroos and Matildas. So it's actually separate deals now. So Socceroos and Matildas.
It used to be one.
Women's World Cup.
And my head is just blown right now because I didn't even realise how much the friction of just knowing where the game is has caused me to watch less football. I've just realised that now in my head of like how much less Spanish League I'd watch or these random games because I don't know where to find it.
So that's all on beIN now. Yeah. And then you look at what's happened in France. France now don't have a provider around the world, so you have to subscribe to Ligue 1's website and watch the highlights through that.
Wow, man.
To watch the games through that.
And most of these
blown my mind, honestly, man.
Bro, literally last week I wanted to watch the semi-final of Libertadores and I had no idea where to find it. And it was on beIN.
It was on beIN.
Yeah, But I had to subscribe, and it was like either monthly or yearly. That was the only two options. Where I was looking for the 7-day turnaround, sign up, and then cancel my email.
Isn't this unbelievable, man? Like the streaming, because I mean, in some senses, you could say streaming has stuffed up musicians, all this stuff, right? Yeah. But it's it's actually stuffed up the entertainment for the consumer also.
Yeah, of course, bro.
All the other things, music, TV, all the music and the other art forms, let's say,
made it easier.
It's made it easier to access everything. For football, it's like
it's made it more difficult, but it's purely down to you look at it from a business sense. Like I don't know what the first ever chocolate bar was, for instance. Call it a Mars bar, and then people realised that people like chocolate, so you came out with a Kit Kat, you came out with a Snickers. There's all these other products that flooded the market, and that's the same what's happened to football. They've realised the popularity of the sport, the passionate popularity of the sport, whereas a sport like cricket, you could maybe argue, and it's just started to happen with cricket in this country. Like Fox have got a lot of the cricket, but Amazon recently came in and bought the ICC rights. So the Women's World Cups, the Men's World Cups, the T20, 50 over, and the Test World Championship. Wow. You have to have Amazon to watch those now. So that's the first kind of time of late that's like, now you know how a football fan feels, having multiple subscriptions if you love your cricket.
Well, look at like in England, right? I said this last week, I think. The Premier League in itself is on, I think, 3 different platforms.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the Premier League, so Sky will get some rights, and then BT gets some, and then I believe there's some on Amazon. So one league is on multiple platforms.
So that's why you literally go to the pub in the UK to watch.
But that's what happens in NFL. So NFL, I was over there recently and best experienced it because I don't mind watching NFL mainly because the TV product, the way that they've been able to, because it's not the most interesting game to watch if you go live. Very stop-start, all around TV, but as a TV product and the way that you can analyse it on the run and everything. So they had, on the Sunday, there would have been games or full coverage, but over the course of the weekend, coverage on ESPN, Fox, NBC, CBS. So 4 different stations over the course of but it's all like and Amazon as well. Amazon have a game too on a Thursday night.
Do you see a company coming in and monopolizing the whole streaming, like a Spotify for music, for example, that just
maybe
takes everything?
Because I think perhaps.
Because
it'd have to be like an Apple TV or something, like some big hitter that couldn't even put a number on it. It'd be ridiculous, bro.
No, because you're looking at $100 million a year to broadcast Premier League. The A-League would probably evaluate itself, or when it went from Fox, it was valued at, I think, 30 to 40 million a year. I honestly don't know what the figure is that Stan pay for Champions League, but if you're going to aggregate all of that and then chuck a World Cup in.
It's a billy.
Yeah. You're looking at a bill. For a market like Australia where there's only nearly 30 million people, it's not really that attractive.
Do you think that the end of Fox Sports for the A-League fractured the game to a point where it can maybe never return to?
I thought you were going to say Tuba Guy. Was that the end? No. The game's pretty resilient here.
I'm not. Look, don't get me wrong. It's not, Fox Sport are on the... It's completely not that. There's so many aspects. Yeah. COVID, fan problems, over police. Like, we can go on for days, right?
Well, COVID's an underestimated one, I reckon. Because if the APL had their time again, I don't reckon they'd break away in the midst of a pandemic.
Yeah.
Because they had to reschedule their first season that they had control of their own destiny. They had to reschedule 88 games.
Was that the first year? Was COVID the first year APL took over?
Yeah. They took over mid-pandemic.
Oh, wow.
Our last coverage of our last coverage was 2021, but the APL had already taken over. Wow. I think I got my dates right. I do know that our last coverage was Melbourne City and Sydney, but we did the coverage from Sydney because we were shit scared of going to Melbourne and getting done by Gladys or Daniel Andrews.
Gladys.
By a 14-dayer in a hotel. So I wasn't. I was offered that option, and I said no, thanks. I'll stay in the studio. Thank you. So, yeah.
And so after that, what was your career change at that point? So after Foxtel,
yeah. So 6 months later, I left Fox because I didn't have much because I was mainly the tennis and the football guy at Fox.
Yeah.
and they lost rights to both of those. So awesome. It happens. It's like so.
I feel like that's just it's natural, as you said, natural attrition. Like
It's just got to be in the right place at the right time. And at the start of my career, I was, and at that point, pretty much, I'm left there. Musical chairs happening, and old dickhead over here didn't have a chair, so it happens. It happens. So I went into writing, like full-time writing journalism. So I joined Code Sports, which was News Corp, but it wasn't in any way affiliated with Fox. So I went out and got that job myself through my own contacts. It wasn't like Fox said, "Oh, go work over there." It was like,
damn. So you're fending for yourself.
Which is fine. You have to. So I went and. I was a writer for 2 years, and I didn't know how it was going to go, but I ended up having two of the best years in terms of covering sport, because I ended up going to Qatar and covered the Women's World Cup here in Australia while working on the 7 coverage at the same time.
You're talking about writing at this time?
Writing,
when
you're
covering
feature
you're
writing. So it was a job. It wasn't like be a news journo. That didn't really. It was more in-depth analysis. Actually, my first main yarn was a 3,500 word story on the life of times of Clive Palmer at Gold Coast United.
We got to read that, bro.
Been called you.
Oh man, I'm all for it.
I called about 10 guys for that one, and man, they was. Were you there the time when you went and played a trial match in Perth, in Kalgoorlie or something against Perth Glory, and there was a Chinese restaurant?
Oh, so I know a few Chinese restaurant stories, but I always talk about. I landed on the Gold Coast in season 3, so I missed the glamour.
You got freedom of speech.
Well, I was the poster boy, which we joke because of my skin colour and that I was just on the back of
you
the
and
Gold
Mitchie
Coast
Cooper
Bulletin.
just hanging
I
out
was vice captain game 1 because I was 6 months older than Mitch Cooper, so he was captain. Which I don't know if I've told this story before, but you'll laugh at it. So, but like our first game ever, Coops is captain. Vince Rigari played me an interview a while ago because he's doing like a documentary on Gold Coast.
Yeah.
So he called up all the players. I have no idea where it's at because we're seeing him soon, aren't we?
Yeah, I put out a tweet the other day, jokingly said, should Jake bring back Gold Coast? And then Vinny replied saying, "Yeah, we will."
Yeah, legit. But so we had this interview, and I listened to the interview, and I was like, wow, like the reporters are like actually taking the piss out of us because and I'm like, man, I've come from the AIS. Coops is like. In the Joey's like a good player, but like we've been put on this pedestal and we're just getting the piss taken out of
You mean taking the piss out of you too?
Yeah, because it's like, so you're going to drive to the game? Like nah, bro, fucking Coops can't drive, but I'm like,
right.
And I'm like, the game's in Melbourne, you idiot. So like, we'll get the team bus, like it was just fucking dealing with that. But Coops was captain and we got to the tunnel and I remember thinking like, fuck, bro, like we're playing Melbourne Heart. They were still then. So Fred was captain. Yeah. And so Fred's at the front, Mitch Cooper's at the front, and then the ref gets there and looks at Mitch Cooper. It's like, you nervous? He goes, a little bit. He goes, you don't have your shin pads on, mate. So Coops had to run back to the change room to get his shin pads. I'm like, bro, we've gone 1-0 down before we've even walked out.
I reckon bring him back. Actually, Jake, that should be your next.
It is
They're in
the goal
the second div. They're in that they were part of the.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think it's got to be.
Is it same colours?
Somewhat, yeah. It's Gold Coast. They've still got the same name. Yeah. Michael Thwaite was playing for him for a bit. But go to your story. So you wrote a 3,000.
So good. Like I could have read a 30,000.
You would have had fun
story.
doing that.
But that was the thing. I got into it and I went, okay, I can find a little niche here, write some long form stories about all kinds of sport. But I ended up because it was a kind of things were moving with football. Like the APL were trying to do their thing. The Socceroos were doing well. They qualified like that amazing morning against Peru. Not doing well. It looked like absolute jeopardy for a while there, but it was a great storyline. And the Matildas were building to a home World Cup. So it was actually really cool to look at it from that side. I jumped out of it after the Women's World Cup because I just couldn't keep pace because I wanted to get back into TV and a few opportunities were opening up and podcasting as well. So
what about it, with articles and stuff? I don't know what the metrics are with the how many people read them and stuff online. Did you find that you were writing in a period where people were reading less online, if that makes sense?
I don't know because I don't really know what to judge it against.
Yeah.
But I do know that the things that worked. So when a big event happened, but I found when I wrote stories about what was happening underneath with Australian football, such as things like development, things like NPL clubs, second division.
I feel like I've seen some of these Facebook ads of Code Sports of your riding.
Well, the last thing I did was a full. He got me back. Yeah.
Boosting them up.
I actually paid them in the end. So it was a negative.
Take it out of the salary.
I left Code Sports, but 4 or 5 months later, Alex Brown, the editor, who was one of the best boss, if not the best boss I've had in media, he was sensational because he'd teach you. If you did something wrong, he wouldn't just go, what the F was that, and walk away. He'd actually explain it. But if you did something good, conversely, it's a bit like coaches, guys. Sometimes you have a coach who'll only complain about, never say, find it too hard to actually give a compliment.
Silence is a compliment.
But this guy would always say, and pump you up as well, and just go, mate, that was sensational. So it's just like acting like a normal human being, basically.
Yeah.
But he was unreal, and he got me back to do the 5 part. He said, do you want to have a crack at this? Because it feels like it was out of the whole APL debacle with the grand final, the blow up, and the club distributions. And he said, do you want to get under the hood a bit and look at Australian football? Like, call it saving football. And I was like,
that's what I've seen. Yes.
And I was like, saving football, one area, but grassroots exploding, especially off the Women's World Cup. Participation up with females 40%. The biggest problem there, facilities. Development, a complete cluster.
Whoa. So same
in terms of
same situation in Sydney then, I guess, from what it is
here.
here.
Like there's no pattern to it. Everyone's doing their own thing.
Yeah.
Kids are getting through though. A-League clubs are have wised up, I think. They're doing a pretty good job in presenting players for first team availability, whether or not those first team and the financial, in my eyes anyway, the financial crisis for the A-League clubs has expedited the need for these kids to play games.
That's my biggest take on, outside of the Juan Matas and Douglas Costas, which I felt were in every team like 10 years ago. The biggest thing now for me was if you were under 21 starting in the A-League like about 10 years ago, fucking had to be a great player. Like a serious talent to be able to start. And so like Mustafa Amini starting a grand final as a number 10 when he was like 19. That was like a world beater type thing. Now you get like 6 or 7 under 23s in every like squad list. So probably 5 in the start.
One about Sydney FC going to a tournament in Europe or something?
Yeah, so Alex Birmingham came into Sydney FC and he had permission off the board to say, okay, how are we going to accelerate this and get our kids up to speed? I actually think playing in the NPL for a season for those kids is great because they play 30 games. They play more than the A-League. Play more games in the A-League. It's like,
No
on what planet? Anyway, and you like I'll go back to my son. In the last 2 years, my son has played 95 games in 2 years of NPL football. And that's amazing. Including trials, including regular season games and playing across, he was playing 18s and played a bit of 20s, and then he played 20s and he was playing a bit of first grade. So that's nearly 100. That's European standard numbers.
Yeah.
But if a kid is in an A-League squad, now if they're not playing, they're basically training for 4 months. 2 months in, all of a sudden they need a call-up to play. Are they going to be the best version of themselves when they get into the
not to cry wolf, but this is my even my old man. He goes, that's the reason why you had a demise. Is if back then as well, we used to go 3 times a season and play with the young Socceroos and Olyroos, and you go from playing against men to playing against kids. You come back in, might not get back in, and then underneath that, the grade we played, it was like youth league, which I'd been playing in since I was 15.
The National Youth League.
And
now they don't even have that.
Which they don't even have
summer.
Gavin and I went to
always talk about this.
to South America 3 years ago now, 2 or 3 years ago. And one of the things we noticed at Fluminense was like they play like 2 games a week every week for like 11 months.
Because they're in the state competition and they're in the national competition. They're in cups and they're in everything.
I remember both of us going, and this sticks out to me so much. The coach, we walk in, we go, oh, we just want to watch a few training sessions. And he basically started laughing at us and goes, well, we don't really train. Like, the boys play 90 games a year. So I don't know where you're going to watch.
Cool.
You know?
Bro, we were waiting to see, okay, what sessions are they doing to make these kids so good?
Rashid and I
pretty
went
much
in thinking...
they just played game, then just like recovery, football tennis game, unbelievable.
And the coach, the way he explained it was like, what do you watch on TV? The boys playing game. Well, how do they get better? Playing games.
Yeah.
It's like a no-brainer.
Sorry.
No. I think, and I just want to mention this because a few people are on our ass for it. Relax. We can't, although these Brazilian kids can play 5 games a week, we actually can't record 5 pods a week. So I just want to address this while we're here on the NPL and the development. I don't know which page it was. I can't remember. but said, "Oh, Rush didn't know about football for Queensland and what's going on." We're here now. We can talk about it. I told people in the DMs we would cover it.
And I still don't know what's going on.
Your comment was funny. Let's give Adam some context.
Sorry, before we jump off, can we stay on the Sydney story? Finish that. Sorry,
Go.
Because it's a very interesting story.
Go.
So mid-season, they went. They were playing in the NPL, and Sydney had last year in the NPL. They had a pretty young squad. They had 16, 17-year-olds playing first grade, so it was tough for them. They were getting kicked about a bit. I think they just ended up on the last day of the season staying in NPL 1. They nearly got relegated or went into the relegation playoff. But mid-season, they decided to go to a youth tournament in Germany. Alex Beaumont organised the trip, and they played against some top opposition, like for like, maybe a year older, some of the kids playing over there. They made the final. So at that level, in youth football, we are okay.
What teams were involved? I remember there was some big teams.
Like a couple of German I think Schalke were over there. Dusseldorf, maybe. Everton were there as well. I think they played them in the final. So like for like, same age, the big bottleneck, your story, maybe you found it harder as well. You would have recognised some people around the place. 17 to 20, that age, when really around the world those kids are being pushed into the first team with an idea, especially in development countries, which Australia is. Like, we're trying to put kids on the world stage. How do you do that? You get them in the transfer market and you get them overseas, so they don't walk away for free. That's how you fund your club. You don't have to worry about TV rights as much. Still do, but, but there's that bottleneck in Australian football where is there enough opportunities for young kids to play the amount of games that they need to at that age against the opposition they need to make it? And we still haven't worked out that it's not quite happening.
Well, some of the
with most of the clubs, I should say, not all.
What you said, I feel like a lot of people here, because they're so foreign with what goes on overseas, Australian footballers actually are really good on the ball. Technically, we are natural athletes, and what we lack is game time. And when they do get sent over there, or you've been at places, Europe, Argentina, South America, it's just that game smarts. It's lack of games at the end of the day.
Yeah, well, my son's actually over there at the moment with a bunch of kids from his area. They've gone over for a training block, not trials or anything like that, just to train and see over there. And we've got some contacts that have been able to get them into a pretty good setup in Belgrade. He's just about, as we sit here right now, he's just about to start, so I don't know how they've gone, but he'll tell me in 2 weeks exactly where he's at. He'll know where he's at straight away about like those things you were talking about, and it's going to be a massive eye-opener for him. Yeah. He's going to have some 6'4", 18-year-old centre-back who's hungry to make it. Yeah. Hungry, he's got that, he can see it. It's just one step away to possibly playing first-team football and everything like that. He's got to deal with him at training every day, so it's going to be a fun experience.
That's the biggest difference, though, from an Australian youth standpoint. I've always found with the national teams, we're always not too far off, like playing at the level or we compete against some of these top nations. The only real difference with is that one or two of those kids are like in a Liverpool or in a Bayern Munich or something of that nature. It's then you go to those countries where your son will experience, it's the level of competition. It's like you're the standout in Sydney, but there's 400 in the same suburb with similar
exactly.
ability.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing for us, I think, growing up.
Just the volume of people that play the game over there versus here.
Here in NPL level, you have 2-3 boys that are above the rest, and they'll sort of carry the ship. Where over in those other countries, they're all at the par.
Well, he went to watch an under-19s game last week in there, and he goes, "Oh, Dad, they don't look physically much different to us, but they're just so smart. They're so, like, they know. They've been trained technically and because of the game time that they've had as well. The amount of
look at the best player in the world right now. He's not that strong.
Who?
Cole Palmer.
Rodri.
I knew you were going to say Cole Palmer.
I just actually got some teams up that Sydney played against. So Schalke, Bayer Leverkusen, Fortuna Dusseldorf, Nordjylland, Royal Charleroi, which is a Belgium team, and Mainz. So
good teams.
Basically Bundesliga teams. It is weird though. That is so fascinating to me because of what happened recently with, was it the Joeys that didn't make what was the group?
No, they were struggling through.
That was struggling.
Was
it the
Joeys?
20s?
It was the
20s.
The 20s, yeah.
So you see stuff like that and you're like, wait a minute. But then you hear stuff like the Sydney FC guys going over there and making a final. I don't know if it's different, if it's international or club or not.
But they've gone over there as a team. They're like they've played
Chemistry.
at that stage 15 games of their season.
Correct.
They're all on the same page. They're physically there as well. Mentally, they're probably feeling good about themselves, which I've been told is a huge thing. Not such a huge thing in AL3s, but depends who rocks up drunk for the game and who's on beers. But with those national teams, sometimes you're going over there playing out of season. That you're walking into teams like you play at Japan and they're either come through the university system or they're at a J-League club already. They're playing a stack of games or high intensity training. It's like, oh, okay, we're going to compete with these guys.
Is that that's not a draft, is it, the university system in Japan?
I don't think so, but
I think it's so cool.
I don't know. Like, obviously someone in the comments will say exactly, but it's, I think it's certain clubs have certain rights to areas, or maybe. I'm not sure.
Have you seen the crowds? Insane at these uni games.
Yeah, right.
Frothing
Japan.
it,
Yeah.
Shout out Japan, man. Japan do it different. Their World Cup in 2002 is underrated, by the way.
Oh, man,
with
they're
Korea.
such a good footballing country.
Did you know also, I don't know if you know this stat, but the Joeys made a World Cup final? Do you know that? Do you know what year?
I don't know.
We lost to
Were
Brazil.
you the captain?
No.
Man, we would have heard
Well,
about
we
it.
made a World Cup.
I think 99.
99.
Wow.
99, was it?
We made a World Cup final. Was it held in New
97,
Zealand?
99.
96, I think it was 99. We'll get someone will correct
I know
us.
Scott McDonald was there. I think Josh Kennedy was there as well.
This guy who played for Melbourne Victory at early doors, Mark Burns, I think his name was. He was captain.
And a guy who was in the squad, but I think he blew his knee out just before, by the name of James Johnson.
James Johnson. What?
CEO of Football Australia.
No way.
Oh,
Was he a baller? Didn't know that.
Back in the
Usually
day.
CEOs are... No, not usually.
No,
Well, he's a CFO.
Well,
Can
he's
you
a
check?
CFO.
I've blown two.
No.
so-
I think he blew his knee
Can you
out.
check
not
when
long-
the World Cup was?
He's done his ACL as well.
2
Yeah.
times.
Why aren't you running Australian football?
By the way,
Don't let Gav run Australian football.
Oh, my God.
There'd be
we
some
did-
weird rules in place.
yeah, man, he'll have Pino cleaners.
Him and Michael from Melton.
Yeah, him and Michael
It's a
Tate.
well-known thing with Gavin.
No training, just games.
Just games.
300
90 games
games
a
a
year.
Shout out to the Victory youth player who came up to me the other day as well and said, "Tell Gav that you can get Pino clean at Costco."
Do you know this Pino Clean?
Oh, we've reiterated it so many times.
But basically,
Cut
I'm going to
to
say
chase
it.
with it.
I've got to
I
tell
don't know
Adam.
how it's
I gotta
Adam
tell him.
needs
He wipes
to
his ass with Pino
part
clean,
of,
not
part
toilet
of
paper,
the pod.
which is like
I was taking a shit at Gavin's.
We had a meeting.
I was taking a shit at Gavin's, and he goes, "Do you want wipes?" I said, "Yeah." And he gave me Pino Clean, but the ones you use on tables and chairs. And he goes, and I'm like, "Are you fucking serious?" And he
Isn't
goes,
it-
"Yeah, I use it all the time."
A bit spicy.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's the point.
Just probably a little bit, yeah. I would
Cleanest
say.
ass in the game.
But he's doubled down on it since as well. Like he's really
Still
fucking-
uses it.
Yeah, he hasn't shifted.
Wouldn't it wouldn't the chemicals or the
Yeah, blood poisoning.
like just kind of eat away at some of the fibers down there, and it's like just
He's immune to everything.
His asshole's
Yeah.
closing over.
Yeah.
yeah, it's-
He's immune to. You've lived all over the world, Gav. You're immune. You're immune
Yeah.
to everything. I just want to quickly go back to this because they're going to. You know what? I don't care if they get on our ass, but I told you guys I was going to respond to this. So just be patient. So I don't know the full context, but there is something real bad, I guess, happening with Football Queensland at the moment. So this is a statement from the Gold Coast Knights Club. Gold Coast Knights wishes to express its profound disappointment and bewilderment at Football Victoria. Football Queens, not Victoria,
Queensland.
Football
what do they
Queensland.
have to do with it?
Poor Dan.
Drag them in.
Football Queensland's decision to continue its creep from competition administrator to competition competitor has now reached an untenable position. So I believe they've gone from adminning the whole thing to now taking over Brisbane Raw's NPL team. So it's like, hold on, you can't run the comp and be in the comp.
So I made a few calls last week to say what's going on up there because I've got some contacts up there. All the clubs felt exactly the same way as Gold Coast Knights. They didn't put it in such strong words, but I think behind the scenes they made their feelings quite clear. Brisbane Raw then came out and said, oh no, we're actually still paying for all of this. We're just putting it under the banner of Football Queensland to match the women's program, which is run through there. It's all a bit hazy because not long ago Brisbane Raw stopped doing teams for under 13s to 18s, and they're doing what they do in Adelaide, and now Perth have followed suit in basically just having two senior NPL sides, because you have to have an NPL side to be in the A-League, but not doing the junior academy and letting the NPL clubs handle the junior academy, but then also topping up with extra training programs for the elite kids. What they call it in Sydney. I forget what they call it, but they have
like
a couple of trainings
here.
a week. So if a good kid wants to train 4 times a week, 5 times a week, they can, instead of just doing the 3 with the NPL club. So that's where it was at. I don't know exactly where it's fallen, but football, it seems like it was a pretty bad miscommunication from Football Queensland's point of view, and maybe Brisbane Roar as well, and a lot of angst, hopefully for no reason, because I think they're right. You can't really have Football Queensland funding, because some of those clubs pay $60,000 a year to be in that NPL, funding and we all want the elite youth to be pushed in Australia as much as possible, but I think that is the line that doesn't need to be crossed, because say if Brisbane Roar get 5 penalties in the first 3 weeks from Football Queensland refs.
Oh, so it's going to look like normal NPL then?
It's not a great look. But hopefully it can be sorted out, because that's just...
Oh, bad, bro.
Again, but a lot of the problems in Australian football happen because of miscommunication, a lack of communication abilities.
Well, I mean, there's stuff going on now with Football Victoria. They're starting their NTC programs. I'm going to butcher this. I don't exactly know how it works, but they've come out and said that their fees are, they're doing 4 or 5 days per week.
This is Football Australia's pilot program that Ernie Merrick is in charge of, that he wanted to replicate the VIS program that he had back in the day, which
Is that
Fucking was it an elite
perhaps
institution?
perhaps? So this is obviously within Victoria.
Yeah.
As far as I know, it's 6 contact days, so game plus 5 days.
Yeah.
Um,
So these kids aren't staying with their NPL clubs?
no,
They're going into this program?
No, so they're going into this program, $19.50 per year. So
What, they got to pay for?
$1,950.
Oh, I
They
thought
pay
you said
for it.
19,000.
No. So it's quite low in comparison to the NPL clubs and stuff like
$3,000,
that
yep.
for that many contact days. You know.
Is this 13s to 18s? The age group?
Well, I've heard.
I think it's 13 to I think it's 13 to 18 because we've got some kids there.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of like the boys that are at your cities, your Westerns, and all of that. The clubs aren't going to allow them to
Well,
go.
so that's So basically, now they're saying you have to pick a pathway. So if you're in NTC, you can't be also in Victoria. You can't be in SIT. So you have to be one or the other.
It's the AIS conundrum, I guess.
Yes,
To an extent,
somewhat,
but you have the academy set up, and they're trying to still build the elite.
Yes.
Well,
So
it's
I'm not totally across this. I thought it was going to be a program to complement the kids that were already in programs such as NPL clubs.
No.
And a lot of NPL clubs down here, like in Sydney, would back themselves to produce players as well as an A-League academy, even though the facilities...
What's the deal in Sydney? Is the NPL junior fees in Sydney as high as they are here?
Yeah.
So it's all the same.
Yeah, Western Sydney don't charge at all, nothing. Western Sydney Wanderers don't charge their kids.
Well done,
Zach.
Rush.
So that was something brought in by Paul Lederer, who I think still has a stake in the club but is no longer the chairman. But the other NPL clubs, I'm pretty sure they charge a fee, but some of them, the limit I think was 2.4 for youth. I could be wrong here, and then it goes up a bit. And then I think and another thing, up in Queensland they brought it in, they don't go straight promotion relegation. So here's another thing about Australian football.
You're in the trenches, by the way, with like some of the lower level stuff, aren't you?
Yeah, well,
But it's very hard to be across it all, right? Because
It
it's
is
so
hard.
complicated.
It is so
convoluted.
complicated, but it needs some clarity and communication about what it's really like, so everyone knows. So there's none of this kind of you look at something and go, it's ridiculous. They're charging $3,000 per session.
But why?
But if they're getting 4 good contacts a season, a week, high quality coaching, and a game on a weekend. I can tell you right now, dancing's more expensive if you've got girls in dancing, which I do as well. I need that Melbourne Cup trifecta this week to cover a few things.
I did have a question around this because then my mind went, okay, so their fees are quite low for the amount of sessions they're getting and times with coaches and stuff like that. It's quite low, right? But do NPL clubs pay a fee to Football Victoria, right?
Yes.
Is that correct?
To be in their competitions. Yes.
To be in their competition. So
I don't know what it is, but that's the case around the country, I'm pretty sure.
To me, it sounds like, I don't know, so I'm asking the question. It sounds like Football Victoria is subsidising this program for the amount that they're going to be paying their coaches and all that to be
I
able
think
to
it might be
charge
subsidised by Football Australia, because this is a Football Australia pilot program.
Yeah.
Okay, so
That's
but then
where
if NPL clubs are paying a fee, so does that mean if I'm playing for Oakleigh Cannons and I'm paying my registration, and that's going to Football Victoria. Now I'm funding those kids that are getting their training subsidised. Is that's a question?
That's where you want clarity. That's where you want administrations to come out and say, look, this is what is happening, and it's been decided by smart people in a boardroom. This is what's happening. We'd prefer it if everything was free and we had $1 billion TV deal that the AFL does. But AFL, like I was talking to someone who's got an elite kid in AFL, they're still stumping up $1,500 a year for a pretty good training program. So it's not like we're the outlier, complete outlier in all of this. It's just Australia, mate, like with the amount of layers of costs for things that need to be done. And
for sure,
everything.
And I wonder why parents are fucking confused.
But and I say this every week of like, you know, we run our soccer academy and I see how hard it is to keep the costs low.
Yeah.
Like I do absolutely everything in my power to like make it accessible to everyone. But ultimately you got to pay coaches, you got to pay ground hire, insurance, all this stuff. It starts being
exactly.
Incredibly difficult.
I want to go back to some funny times at Fox Sports. Are there any and we'll get into this one in a sec, besides the you and Graham Arnold one, are there any that stick out to you with a player or coach where it was like, oh, this is getting spicy?
Not
really.
With anyone on the panel,
like you tapped us up earlier today and said, try and think of a few things. I couldn't think of...
Yeah, fair enough.
Bozza and Robbie Slater ever clashed with anyone? Like from a...
I remember Ange and Craig Foster was a good one.
Yeah.
With Ange, Robbie and Bozza were kind of making it clear that they weren't over the moon with how that 2017-18 qualifying campaign were going. And a lot of people blame Robbie Slater and Mark Bosnich, mainly Robbie Slater, for pushing Ange out the door. Now,
really?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know that.
This happened with Craig Foster.
I know the Craig Foster.
He went after Jan Verslaen as well after like a bad World Cup.
Yeah, back in the day. That was when Ange was with the under-20s, back in the mid-2000s.
Which is stories, man, from anyone who played in that era with Ange. If you hear their stories about playing under Ange, it's crazy. It's crazy that like it just contradicts everything you'd ever heard because he's managing the Premier League and like one of the most progressive managers in the world. Yet
the reports are bad.
Yeah, a lot of people didn't enjoy the training and the camps. It was like very, very much a militant.
But Ange doesn't have a relationship with his players.
Yeah, so maybe
he has that separation,
which is for the modern day manager. That's incredible.
Yeah,
to be performing.
I think
at the
it all
high level.
came about because he had to tell his best mate Mickey Peterson that his career was over.
Oh,
and he just didn't know how.
Shout out Mickey P.
You know what? This is so fascinating that you said that, right? Because I was talking to. It was actually a counsellor about this, and I was talking about different coaching styles and whatever. And I mentioned him. I said, this style, you know, this whole thing of not having any relationship with your players, and it seems to work for him. And I was like, you know, it must be hard, you know, being that, I guess, cold. And he said, no, that actually sounds to me like he's extremely empathetic, and he really struggles with building a relationship with someone and then, like you're saying, you know, ending their career or telling them they're on the squad or something like that. So it's just easy to separate himself. And that's fascinating.
That's fascinating
perspective, yeah.
So where were we? Oh, yeah, Robbie and Robbie and Bozza copped it, mainly Robbie again, back to my earlier point when we started, it's like because they didn't want Australia to miss a World Cup and they feared that was going to happen. So in the end, Ange left because he just had an absolute gutful about how Australian football perceives itself within, and how things like state feds not getting on with Football Australia, not getting on with A-League clubs, and everyone saying, like, I don't know if you were in Adelaide at the time when Football Australia called up a bunch of kids for the under-20s camp or something like that, and Adelaide turned around and said, no, get stuffed, they're not going.
That was me.
That was you.
Yeah.
Like, look, what?
That was you,
but do you know what happened with that? Yeah, this is what happened with that, though, because I was... And the times might have changed, and maybe I was crying wolf at the time, but I'd played a year at Gold Coast. The club couldn't stay alive. I'd played like 10 games on the back of it, and I'd had like 30 under-20 caps by like 18. And so I'd gone to the first World Cup, then the second wave of 20s came, and I was like, I got called again, like about, the start of the season. And I was like, Cozzy, man, like I honestly, like it was a nothing tournament in a sense of, not a nothing, you play for your nation, but there was no qualifying, there was no real points. There's like a silver disc if you won it in Vietnam or something. And I just said to Cozzy, I was like, Cozzy, I don't have any runs on the board of the pro game. I got runs on the board there. I'm going here and I'm like, if I go there, go for 3 weeks, and I don't play 90 minutes every game, I've got to come back and try get in front of Karuska, Osama Malik, and Dario Vidicic. And I'm like, if I'm in favour now, I'd want to stay.
Yeah.
And he goes, well, I want you to stay. Are you sure you want to stay? Because I'll call them. And I go, if I can stay, I'll stay. And he called, it was Han Berger, who was the technical director at the time. And he came back and said, if Jake doesn't come, he'll never play for Australia again.
Yeah,
so I boarded the plane.
He can say that, but that's not.
Yeah,
it's not as a young kid maybe a thing. But from my point of view, playing in those junior national team things are massive, because if we get to World Cups, that's where you go to a game at a under 20s World Cup in particular, and an Olympics, and at an under 20s World Cup, half the crowd are agents.
Yeah, Curtis Good.
That's where you get scouted. And as much as we'd like to think, because the A-League's on in the morning in Europe and no other football's happening at the same time, they're all huddling around and watching the games. They're not.
Yeah.
You need that to supplement a kid playing 50 games in the A-League to say he can do it on the world stage.
Curtis Good got signed. We played a tournament in Kuala Lumpur and we played China. Like, honestly, it felt like there was just parents in the stadium. There was no one there. And Curtis Good from that game got a 6-year deal to Newcastle. Your team got a 6-year contract.
Went to primary school with him.
From that game, we
I guess it comes back to the coaches also not having the foresight of trying to get some revenue for the club by selling a player and that whole thing.
That's been the thing that's made my head, like, I just scratched my head about the journey of the A-League. It's like the inconvenient truth that everyone tries to ignore is a transfer market is worth $15 billion US a year, give or take a couple of bill here or there. So why aren't we doing everything we can to facilitate kids to get into first teams? And I'm not saying that every A-League team needs to be a bunch of 20-year-olds. You still want your Douglas Costas and Juan Matas and things like that to be involved. But do we really need to sign a 28-year-old out of a second division somewhere from the world instead of maybe getting a kid in there and he's going to make a couple of mistakes, but he's going to school himself up? And I look at a kid like Hayden Matthews, who was thrown in last year for Sydney FC. He gets to the end of this year, he's going to make mistakes in games. It's still going to happen. But he'll get to the end of it, 50, 60 games. He should be worth $2 to $3 million for Sydney FC. Yeah. What does that pay for?
Well, Adelaide survived off their
Adelaide's got the model.
transfers. Like
now you look at Adelaide and you see all their kids. They signed another one last week, a 5-year deal.
Yeah.
Now, he won't be on much.
No.
But it's a 5-year deal that ties into the club. If he ends up progressing,
Someone's got to break it.
they can come in and he'd probably have a buyout clause on his, as far as a transfer fee goes. Central Coast have done it well, although they unfortunately, because of the way the contracts work, Nisbet and Ballard left last year for no transfer. Because that killed the owner, I think. That was
combination.
They just called him the Australian Kante, I saw on Twitter.
Which one?
Ballard.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, it's a decent blueprint. I never thought about that. The market of, okay, you put a 20-year-old plays 10 games in the A-League, and then they go and play for the under-20s, where all the agents are, and they see them at an Olympics or something like that. They look up their transfer market. He's played some senior games, and then it starts to, okay, there's the value that you can sell them for. And I never thought about that as being a...
And Australia, we're not... Like Nestor Kunda, if he had a Brazilian passport, he'd be $20 million, not 3, or whatever it was.
Yeah.
But that's where we are. We're an undervalued market. So if we can get it right in the next couple of years with pushing these kids, and again, like, I know clubs like Sydney and Victory, they're there to win. And North Terrace,
Teague and Valadon,
they want
two
wins.
young boys. And
exactly.
Like you're saying, few games, make mistakes, and then they're starting to...
But they want to win. Some other clubs are kind of more receptive of a kid making a mistake in a game. So
I wonder how much that would change if clubs were threatened with relegation. That would be very interesting to see.
Well, the second division's coming on.
Yeah.
Is that announcement? We haven't brought that up.
We haven't brought that up. It is coming. People are like, it's a start. It's not a great start. That's what the main consensus is, but there's no pro rel yet. But it's coming, and I think it's like a Champions League format.
What would be yours? Do you have any view or stance on that? Like,
the view is, what has happened for a reason. It's happened because the clubs who are dead keen on it have sat in a room with FA, and I think FA have said, well, we're not paying for this. We're not taking our $50 million rights deal from Channel 10 that we get a year and pumping 20 of it into a second division.
Yeah.
It's not happening. You guys, unfortunately, are going to have to kind of stump up the majority, if not all of the cash to run this competition. We'll run it for you. We'll be the, provide the refs and, run the competition. But you guys are going to have to kind of invest to
So
start
the
this
clubs are
ball
funding
rolling.
the second division. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I
so
remember when we were at Avondale, there was all these talks, such grey areas, about the money that has to be brought up before we could actually get moving.
yeah, and again, the communication wasn't exactly clear, but I think for the reasons which were fair is they had to keep a bit in confidence about all those discussions, how it was going to look. But out of it, they've come up with that Champions League format, and they've come up with it for a reason, because the clubs have realised, well, we've got to start like this. At least it's a start. It is far from perfect. Yeah. I think you're going to have kids by the time we have Pro-Rel.
If a woman wants to procreate with me, then yeah, probably, maybe, hopefully.
Procreate for Pro-Rel. Is that?
Yeah, procreate for Pro-Rel. There you go, man. That should be their tagline.
Yeah. Start now.
Adam Peacock says.
Can I ask you, Adam, obviously covering the English Premier League and being across that country's football somewhat, and there's so much confusion here in Australia. Is that normal in a footballing nation to have so many question marks around, what happens with that league and what happens with that team and what happens with this federation? And
I don't know the grassroots setup in England, but I do know what the PL2 21s and 18s set up. I actually went the day my son finished his HSC. He and I got on a plane and we went over to England for 13 days and watched 10 games in 13 days.
Oh, that is a freaking father-son trip.
We talk sported our head off in the car, just listening to
Simon
your
Jordan.
mate. Give his opinion on just about everything. I'd love to hear his opinion on Pino Clan as an arsewipe.
Oh my God, that would be
He'd have
TV.
one. He'd have one. So we went to every level though. We were lucky enough to get into a Champions League game, Europa League game, but we went to a PL 21s game. In Newcastle, and the level was, they all had the flush boots. They all probably had pro contracts, pretty well paid. They're on the cusp of making it, but I could see maybe two of them might play Premier League if they're lucky. And
that's what usually happens, two or three.
Yeah,
if that go.
But they've got a structure where it's pretty defined, but they've been through some real ups and downs. I think Dan Ashworth, who's now at Manchester United, was at Brighton, was at Newcastle, was at the FA. He set up some structures there that made it, okay, this is clear what you need to have an elite academy. If you don't have that elite academy, you can have one underneath, which then puts limitations on where you can recruit players from. If you're in that top one, you can recruit from anywhere in England. Yeah. But if you're there, you have to keep it geographical.
Yeah, right.
So they've got a pretty clear structure about where, and now you look at with England and they're winning youth tournaments for fun. They've got young players playing all throughout continental Europe, which if you said that 10, 15 years ago, you'd go, no. It was the other way around. Like players went to England at the top of their game and it was really hard for young English players to break through.
10 years ago, you'd be hard-pressed to name 5 English players playing abroad in a top league. Yeah. Now, they're in all of Europe's big leagues. Like that, you don't just have to. And Jadon Sancho, I feel like, was the first sort of big one to be like, oh, you can make it in another league. Like, it doesn't have to be in England. Yeah. Like even before Noni came to us, he was one of PSV's best players. So it changed because, like you said, 10 years ago, that's not.
But they did reconstruct their league. 30 plus years ago, the Premier League.
The Premier League, they've changed it. But now, England have got that structure where, okay, a player is on the books of a Premier League team. He's not going to play many minutes. You've got 60 options to loan him out in the lower divisions.
Literally 60 options.
60 options. So we don't quite. Whereas back to the National Second Division here, you look at when they're playing at October, December, I would hope that there'd be the opportunity for a young player who doesn't look like they're going to get many minutes at an A-League club to go, you know what, do you want to go and play with Avondale or do you want to go and play with South Melbourne?
I'd hope so.
Now, if they're going to be welcomed with open arms and hopefully those clubs might be compensated, there might be some kind of loan fee that they can attach to the player or whatever like that, just to get those games in their legs. And it's like, it looks like it's going to be 10 games or whatever it is if you make the final of the second division to start with, but it's 10 games that they might not have got at that time of year anyway. So hopefully that can maybe be a part of it all.
All right, let's circle back to this Graham Arnold one. Now, I actually read that you were sick of people asking you about it because you guys had rekindled almost
No, we're good. We're totally good now.
totally good now.
But just the hellmen who I'd post something on Twitter, X, whatever the effort's called now, about it's great to see Australia make it through. What an effort! Congratulations to Graham Arnold.
Oh, here we
and
go.
there'd be the inevitable three of them going, "Have you apologised yet? Where's my apology?"
For those who don't know or haven't seen it, basically, I mean, you can say it, Adam. Like, what happened for the people that haven't seen this? Because it's a classic moment, and I feel like it's just an iconic moment.
Yeah, it happened, so you can't pretend it didn't happen. But he was under a bit of pressure that year, I think, from memory, with Sydney FC. It didn't quite go the way they wanted. It was the year after they played the grand final with you guys, and then didn't quite go to plan the next year. They had that Tavares and Jacques Fati. That's a great name.
Yeah, Jacques Fati. He was a good player, man. He's got a good CV.
Yeah.
What we need is Fahid Ben Khalfala to say that name.
Oh,
Because it'd just be magical.
Fahid Ben Khalfala.
Anyway, I digress. Not trying to get off the subject. Not trying to avoid it. But he was under pressure. And on a match day Saturday game, we'd always interview the coach after a game, and we'd do it in the studio. And Bozza, invariably, if things weren't going well, like the famous example, well, that's a great yarn as well, how he told John Aloisi, "You're going to resign," on air. Melbourne Heart. Yeah, it was pretty full on.
I love Bozza.
They made up, though, in the end. But Bozza wanted to ask Graham a couple of hard-hitting questions, and I had questions as well, but wasn't going to make it completely uncomfortable. I'll leave that to Bozza. Anyway, it got the feeling that they're trying to avoid him. He's trying to avoid us. He'd do the interview with whoever the sideline reporter at the game was. Anyway, eventually he comes on, and word had got through to Arnie that I had said that he was avoiding us, which maybe he was, maybe he wasn't, maybe I did say it or whatever like that. Anyway, he came on, and that's how it happened. He questioned me, and then I tried to explain on air and fumbled about a bit, and in the end it came up.
I thought
with
you handled it well.
Yeah.
But you don't, from what he's had to dig at you because he's like, "Well, I'm not avoiding you. You owe me an apology." And what he claims that you've told people that he's avoiding you, but you don't recall even saying those words.
Yeah. I certainly wouldn't have said it on air that he's avoiding us. Yeah. I would have said something like Graham Arnold has elected to
So
do
there was a
interview
rat in the
with-
camp that was either wrong or right.
Oh,
It's so
Anyway.
funny when he goes, "Well, you going to apologise?" And Adam's like, "For what?"
which my kids say to me all the time now. So
Oh, no way. That's good.
Oh,
That's
man.
Do you have any?
what for?
Do you have any like favorite? Because you obviously were across the A-League tenure for quite a while. Like any favorite A-League moments, like players, clubs, periods that you really enjoyed covering and love watching?
One of the funniest things I think I ever saw was thanks to Dave Davutovic, who we had this fun segment where we were like playing on people's names. So we got
I remember this.
Rutger Verm to try and do the Verm, the worm, dance move,
Yes.
and he thought he could do it,
Oh no.
but he couldn't.
Oh no.
Bro, I remember this.
It's on there somewhere. It's on there somewhere. We got Ryan Grant, and it still kills him to sing. We had on the early days of Matchday Saturday, we'd have a guest on who loved their football but wasn't necessarily involved in football.
Right.
They were just a fan.
Yeah, love that.
And we had, I'll get to my favourite moment from Matchday Saturday in a second, but we had Ian Dixon, who at the time was Australian Idol
Told ya.
judge.
Yeah,
Dicko.
Dicko Dixon.
And we had a singing contest, and Ryan Grant sang a Keisha song. It was "Don't Stop," that song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
TikTok, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
And it was, it is so bad.
That's on air.
And
That's
it-
aired?
Yeah, it's
Buster.
aired. It's on YouTube.
Wow.
You go find it. Ryan Grant.
Oh, you
is-
gotta
Well,
keep
Ryan
this
Grant's
up,
been
man.
playing for 47 years, so...
But
Buster.
our winner of that, and we ended up getting him in studio in a tuxedo to sing. He auditioned "What About Me,"
Oh, Sean Knoll.
Shannon Knoll, but he sung it in his native tongue, the Macedonian marvel Norm Sekalovsky.
Oh man, what a character he was for
Man.
the game.
Can you please find these
he's
clips?
Norm Sekalovsky,
He
man.
is an absolute legend.
Norm's
Yeah,
still
he's-
doing
we've
comedy.
In a
heard-
tuxedo.
In a tuxedo, and he had a he still probably does. I think he's still doing weddings and everyone. If you want to check out Norm Sekalovsky, he's probably available for your big Macedonian wedding or whatever like that.
He's still on Instagram, like doing funny shit.
Oh man,
like I've seen him.
You got to send me up.
There was a lot of noise coming out of Perth Glory when he was there. Like he's the funniest guy in the A-League and stuff. Like a lot of people.
He's
like,
such a character.
Yeah,
that was one of my favourite moments ever. And we on our grand final show, we got him live in the studio to sing to the ad breaks.
What the fuck?
What about me in Macedonia? You know how funny that is?
That's hilarious, bro. That's TV.
Another fun moment was when, I don't know why, it was on someone's desk. Must have been from a Christmas party dress up. Someone had like an army helmet on their desk at work. I don't know why. One of those old school ones. So Robbie Slater, in his infinite wisdom one night when he was a bit bored, he decided to go and get it. And we took the wide shot and he was in the corner of the studio marching on the spot doing that with the helmet on. I think he got in trouble for that.
Oh, no.
Yeah, that does sound like something you'd get in trouble for.
I got in trouble one night for the FFA Cup, and that was another thing that we loved doing it. We were there for the start of the FFA Cup and doing around the grounds and all that. I think my first night was at South Springvale. The night that
That's
they,
cool, man.
Oh,
We know South Springvale.
I think they knocked off Cardiff, a team from Newcastle, and I was crook that night until I got to there and I had a souvlaki with untold amount of garlic sauce on it.
Oh, that'll fix you.
I swear to God, it cured me.
Yeah,
I swear to God, it knocked it.
There you go.
That'll
Next day,
kill
sweat it out.
anything in your
Suburbs,
system.
bro.
Yeah. Might have needed the Pino Clean the next day.
First thing in the morning.
Yeah, but yeah, one night I went to Campbelltown and it was so cold. So on air, I decided to wear ski goggles, and I got in trouble for that.
Good times.
Beanie and ski goggles, but yeah.
Good
Well, what do you
times.
mean? Why did you get in trouble?
Oh, was it? I was trying to deliver a team news cross, and I had ski goggles on. It was
Just fogging up.
Yeah, but didn't they like
stupid.
the whole thing with Australian football, especially the A-League, is people say greatest league in the world. This would only happen in the A-League. This would only happen in Australian football. I feel like well, at least now, brands should really play off that. Yeah. Like not to sort of take the piss out of the quality of the football, but more so just shit that only we have, like the sauce bottles and just random.
But it's a bit like when you've got a mate who's a bit of a dickhead, but then someone you don't know has a go at him, and you go, "Hey, knock it off." No, he might be a dickhead, but he's our dickhead.
He's our dickhead.
So it's a bit like how a lot of people feel about our A-League. It's like, yeah, we know it's not perfect, and I think that piece that Ben Coonan and I think Paul Meltz from the APL had a bit to do with it. You would have seen it at the start of the year. It just went through one by one some of the great moments in the A-League. It was like a 3-4 minute kind of little
we spoke about it.
Yeah.
With Ali Benjamin.
Our
our dickhead, our league.
But it was so good, and it made you feel good about it. It's one of the best advertisement promos that has ever been done for the A-League. Just watching that, and it's like,
it was great.
it was unreal.
You realise how much stuff's happened.
Yeah,
Like you know what I hate that when Del Piero came to Sydney, we didn't do like a Beckham deal where we like gave him like part ownership in a future franchise or something to keep him here. I feel like if some of those legends, like,
or give him 5% of Sydney or 10% of Sydney.
Yeah, just when you were covering the games, like I wanted to ask you about Angers Brisbane because that was like the first sort of team that had like a.
You would have played against them, so
Yeah, I did, but you like even then, just for you covering it, because that was like a new style of football, particularly for the A-League, and Ange was that was where he broke away from being this sort of Australian youth coach that didn't really have great success.
that's where he said that as well after he got the punt from the young Socceroos job. He said, if I'm going to go back into it, I want to go back into it and do it where I'll be the master of my own narrative, and the way I'm going to do that is to not kind of morph into something that adapts to a certain ceiling that might be there. So why can't we get a team that passes the ball 800 times a game? Yeah. Why not? Yeah. Why can't we have a high possession? Because at the time that was the thing that Spain were doing, obviously in Barcelona, and doing so well. So why can't we do that? It's like, oh no, you can't really do that. Blah, blah, blah. And it worked. I mean, 36 games undefeated.
Was it? Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah,
Barcelona.
It was like different players, but it made cult figures as well. Besart Berisha came out. Yeah, he became
Roichi
at the end, and Thomas Broich, one of the great. Who for you guys? have you kicked it around much? Who's the greatest? Who's your favourite one?
We did a
top
top five. Do we remember what they?
What'd you end up
I think
on?
we were all
Gavin's
pretty
was
close.
Shannon Knoll and
Are we
Delta
talking?
Goodrum.
Are we talking like imports? Are we talking imports here? Players in A League.
Yes.
Or we went through imports.
Okay.
So the import, like mine was in no order, was Del Piero, Broich, Berisha, Ninkovic, Castro.
Yep.
Were the top five for me. And I had a lot of people reach out to me and have digs at everyone else's.
Yeah.
They all, but I think you guys are pretty close. This guy just went.
Mine was Vaughan Coveney, number one.
Yeah, this guy just went. He went.
Coveney.
He goes
Everyone-
for Newcastle because of
Everyone
Vaughan
got on
Coveney.
our ass
Fair enough.
for no Carlos Hernandez. Everyone got
Carlos
on our
Hernandez,
ass for no Carlos Hernandez. But then it's like there's so many metrics because it's like there's been some players that have spent like little time in the A League but actually had the biggest and best career of them all.
Well, if you went Fred, Melbourne Victory version Fred,
I had Fred.
Wow.
you'd go.
He's Archie's best friend for a season or two, wasn't he?
There's a lot.
I'd go. I base the parameter on enjoyment of watching,
Yep.
ability to change a game, and won multiple titles or multiple things. And I landed, and everyone in Perth hates it because they go, "What about Diego? He was a great player, absolutely, but trophies for Perth at that time, won. But I went with Ninko and Broich at the top.
Yeah.
Ninko, man.
Yeah,
Well,
Ninkovic
even
was
just the whole,
so good.
just adding spice to the league with the whole switching allegiances to the other side and like
At the end, yeah.
yeah, like
He's coaching there now at Wanderers.
yeah.
Wow.
He wants to help out with youth, and
Yeah.
That's cool. That's cool. He's staying around the game.
He's a great player, man.
So I guess we'll sort of end where you're at now, which is at Stan. How are you finding that? You're doing the Champions League. Talk to us about what that's been like because I feel like Stan came out of nowhere a little bit in terms of I was like, wait, what the fuck? The Champions League is going on Stan?
yeah.
Wasn't there Olympics coverage on Stan as well?
Yeah, we did that this year.
They did
So,
the Olympics
yeah.
this year,
There's a lot going on there, man.
which I was weirdly fascinated with because I never watched the Olympics. But I'd never.
I love
but then I'd
Gav was watching like the ribbon twirling for gymnastics.
Oh,
He was watching every event, telling us up like
Fair
results and
What was
stuff.
my
Yeah.
favourite again?
It was the one with the
Gymnastics trampoline.
That's it.
gymnastics trampoline.
Yeah, that's nuts. They go 60 feet in the air. They're
Why was you
mad.
giving it to me? I said this is
They
proper.
are mad.
This is a real sport.
How did that come about, and then how's it been sort of covering not only the Champions League but all the European leagues?
Yeah, came about earlier this year. Got a call from the guys. Said, "Would you be interested?" And I said, "Sure." And yeah, Max Rushton was doing it, and Max was going, and they said, I ended up going, well, no worries, and I kept it from Bozza. I didn't tell him because you just keep when you're talking about maybe
Deals and
joining
stuff.
somewhere and deals, you just keep it totally separated. So he was happy. Never worked with Craig Foster, and the guy is deeply besotted with the game, like absolutely froths over certain tactics and things like that. So that's been because like all you guys as well grew up watching Fozzie with Les.
Yeah.
Before that, Johnny Warren, and you know, back on reminiscing about early days watching. My first really strong memories are in the 90s watching on a Saturday Arvos. They used to have the Champions League highlights program presented by Les and Fozzie and
On
Johnny
SBS.
was on SBS. It was, I think it was part of their 4 or 5 hour extravaganza on a Sunday Arvo, and I used to love that Champions
Well,
League show.
I remember the World Game. That was where I got.
That was my
It
favorite.
was part of the
show.
World Game whole kind of like they changed it. They call it on the ball and things like that. And but yeah, that was my first initiation. So to work with Foz now has been pretty cool actually. So
Is he? I heard from Ali Menjum. I don't know if you know Ali Menjum from Copa 90.
Ellie, yep.
I heard that Foz is, like you said, so obsessed with the game and talking about it and tactics and stuff. Do you sometimes just sit there thinking, wow, this guy could...
Yeah, and he's got a point. He made the point to me earlier. He says we don't talk about tactical innovations or like basically how the game's won enough in this country. We don't break down.
Yeah.
And I think, again, it's a communication thing about Australian football. If you communicate it in a way that brings people in, it can be
that's
done.
a great point, huh? That's a really good point. I'm thinking of Joe Rogan and the art form of him breaking down jiu-jitsu to a person that doesn't understand jiu-jitsu when you're in the middle of an MMA fight. And it's like, wow, that's so cool because he's actually explaining you through why it's amazing what they're doing.
My favourite quote in football is from Mark Viduka, who said, football is a really easy game to understand, but you don't understand how many fuckwits complicate it.
It's so true.
And I don't drop the F-bomb lightly because I laughed my head off when he said that to me. But like, it's true. It is a simple game, but it's complex outcomes and trying to break it. It's fascinating. Like, think of how simple it is. It's played on a big rectangle. The goals haven't changed in 100 years. The line markings haven't changed. The number of players haven't changed. But still we argue about what's the best way to win a game and the best way to defend and attack and everything. It changes and day by day, week by week, it changes about how the best way is to go. There's always innovation about the game. But, yeah, that's the thing. And I agree with Foz. It's like, we need to kind of – not we need to go on a crusade and do it, but there are ways that the game should be explained in greater detail.
Well, yeah, because you don't want
greater information.
I don't know if it's an Australian. This might sound like I'm shitting on the Australian society, but you don't want to overcomplicate it. Like, you want to have it to where it's easily explainable, but you are giving. Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah,
like, and I feel like that was a good point.
I
don't think it's done much in the A League at least.
It's tricky because you don't want to make it a closed shop. Whereas if you've never watched a game of football and you tune in, you're watching half-time analysis and there's X's and O's flying about everywhere. It's like, what? Yeah. But there are ways, I think, of doing it. It's a tricky, fine balance to do it. But no, the Champions League's been good. I was questioning my life choices when the first alarm went off at 2:20 a.m.
Oh, I was
for
just
the
going to
first
ask
week.
what's your working hours.
But now the clocks have gone back. It's a 4:20 start this week, wake up call. So it's not so bad.
Shit.
So
what is the working hours? Sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I was going to say the same thing. Like, what's a day in the life look like for you on a Champions League morning?
So this week, for instance, we're doing 2 Champions League mornings, Wednesday, Thursday morning. I'll be up, probably about 4:15 on air at 6:35. Yep, for some reason that's the start time. But that's the start time. Kickoff is at 7. But I'll do all my prep. Like before I came here today, I did like 5 hours of the prep. So getting across where everyone is. Because Champions League, not every week, so you kind of refresh the mind a bit.
Hold on, man. I thought you were saying you were prepping for us.
For 5 hours.
What the fuck?
Oh, I just did a live 5 hours for suited and booted.
He's unbelievable. He's better than Craig Foster.
We don't even do 5 minutes of prep.
He's the go to media.
So
We haven't even done 5 hours of prep. He's done it.
I don't think you guys knew who was coming in today.
do you guys have a rundown? Loose. It's on your phone, isn't it?
It's on my phone.
It's on your phone. Fair enough. That's the best way to do it. Environmentally friendly. No, so I'll do 5 hours of prep for the Champions League. And then that'll get me through the week.
That's a lot of prep, though. Like, how many games? Well, guess Champions League's
36
opened
teams.
up a bit. Yeah, fair enough.
So what does that
36
prep look like? Is it watching back older games? Is it reading? Is it...
Nah, you're reading. Yeah, so I would have watched the games and everything, but then it's making sure you know how many games have they won, who are they playing next, what was their team on the weekend, who'd they play on the weekend, what's their league situation. So just things that you can drop in to casual conversation when those guys next to me are reacting to what's happening.
So how do you compartmentalize all that and put it in front of you and make it easy to
Decipher?
and almost like look back on and just like, oh, yep. Is it all color-coded and everything? Like, how do you do it?
So when we sit at the desk, I can have 2 sheets of paper with me.
Yep.
But when I'm standing, I'll just have to kind of remember. But like I say, I'll crystallize that into 2 pages, 2 A4 pages of each morning. So that's 9 games on 2 pages.
Yep.
So just the relevant stuff that's extremely relevant. So I'm not fumbling around on air to try and find a fact. If it doesn't pop into my head, it's probably not worth remembering anyway. So I'll do that, and I'll have those 2 pages in front of me at the last segment when we're doing everything. But half times are pretty easy because you just have a couple of facts in your head, but you're always reacting to what's happening and the trends in the game. And then Foz and Boz take over on the big screen with the little X's and O's and everything. So, yeah, you can easily overcomplicate it. You can easily go in with too much. You just got to realise how much you need.
I reckon my biggest fear would be butchering names because I just give everyone nicknames.
Yeah, you'd be pretty fucked on that.
Yeah, I'd be so bad at that. And I always think of that. Like, as a commentator, how do you, if you've never seen a name before, how are you checking up that you're saying it right?
Thankfully, YouTube has a lot of how to pronounce. Yes. And you just put in the name. And then, but then you pick up language conventions like
Like the J in like Balkan is like it's
a
not
Y.
pronounced- Yeah, it's a Y.
It's a Y. Double L in Spanish is
A Y.
Y. All those things. So you stay across that, and if in doubt, just don't say it. And then just say, "Oh, what do you think of him?" You say that to you, let them handle it. No.
What's your biggest fuck up on air that you remember?
Oh, that's a good one.
Happened when I was reading news, actually. And don't take this the wrong way, and get your mind out of the gutter, but don't eat nuts before you go on air. Okay?
I don't get it.
I ate a bag of nuts before I went on air one day, and I couldn't talk. It closed my airway.
You were thinking other nuts.
Oh my God.
He literally said, "Get your mind out of the gutter."
I think I said, "Get your mind out of the gutter," and that's where I put his mind. No,
Yeah. That's what usually
Oh,
happens.
so what, your just voice was going
Prime
hoarse.
Minister gutter.
Oh, really?
couldn't talk.
Are you allergic?
No, it's
So it
just
just
that
dried up your mouth.
bag of almonds and just stopped any kind of ability
no
Adam,
for my
stick-
voice.
Stick to the snakes. Stick to the Red Bull.
Yes.
Stick to the
Stick to the
pizza.
pizzas.
Stick to the
That's a
pizza.
real. See, for me. That's a real good balanced diet. If you want to stay up to watch the Prem, that is.
My record,
Yeah.
which I'm so proud of, I once had, because we played a game, because I'd play the 1 o'clock game, not the 3 o'clock game.
How'd you
so.
do that?
Oh, it's just, because I love playing and stuff like that. But my record one day was 14 pieces of pizza after a game.
Wow. That's impressive.
Oh, no.
So when you guys,
So Rogs, that's a.
I'm getting excited.
You'd absolutely destroy that.
when the games are going on and stuff, are you in the green room just eating, watching the games? Whatever.
Half time of the first game on match day Saturday was when the food came.
What type of pizza?
Oh,
what,
that's
what was the
sick.
what were the go-to pizzas? Were you guys getting
was
like
it like
proper
an
like upper
original?
echelon New South Wales Sydney
I'm-
restaurant
I'm
pizza?
just-
Or you getting like Domino's and shit.
No, proper, like it was a proper Italian like pizzeria. And I just kept it simple, just a straight pepperoni. That's all
Oh,
you need.
yeah, that
And,
works.
and Slater's never eating.
No, he ate the pizzas. Yeah.
While doing push-ups.
Yeah, well, he would. Next day, he'd go to the park probably and do 500 push-ups.
Who's your all-time favorite Socceroo? Because you've been you would have watched in the 90s. Like, give us maybe the obvious candidate, but like give us the unsung hero that you loved as well.
Probably my favourite soccer is Mark Bresciano.
Wow, that name's not shouted out enough, is it? For like a great.
And not saying the others weren't thinkers, but thinking footballer. Love thinking footballers. And yeah.
It's a real mega mind.
I've heard that there was a game when he played against Brazil, and he was the one player that just didn't care. Just give me the ball always.
Yep.
Like
Yeah.
under pressure.
Didn't care.
Didn't care.
They're renowned. Him and Vinny Grella were renowned for bringing in the big wheels of Parmesan as well into camp.
They were.
Because they were both in Italy at the time, and it became like a ripple effect in the team where they'd have to bring in more Parmesan because everyone would just put cheese on everything.
Yeah,
Because of, like-
it happened. I got told it happened the day. Was it the day that they played England? And apparently, Vinny Grella was sitting at the table, and they had like they put some cheese on their pasta because he'd have plain pasta with a bit of olive oil, a bit of salt and pepper, and Parmesan cheese. And England, they brought over the cheddar, for instance, or whatever it was.
Oh, he would've
and
lost
Vinny
it.
just blew up. He said, "Fuck this! Next time I'm coming to camp, I'm bringing the Parmesan." Big wheel. And apparently Gus Hiddink used to get big squares of it with bread rolls, lashings of butter, and just sit down and have two big rolls of
I would imagine he'd do
Parmesan
something like
sandwich.
that.
Because he was the boss.
Bro, what
and he
about
could do what he wanted.
Yeah.
As he should, man.
The king.
Is there any notable athletes or personnel that you've interviewed or had spent time with that
Like
we
starstruck.
haven't brought up that are of like legendary status in your eyes?
Oh, the tennis guys, you get so much access to the tennis guys because every match they play, they have to do media. And before every
right
tournament,
after.
they have to do media. Yeah. So probably my favourite athlete outside football and the people that you love in football are Roger Federer.
I knew you were going to say that.
Fedzi.
He's an Australian. He's practically
Yeah.
Australian.
Who-
isn't he?
Which type of? I mean, you've done a few sports now. Which sport gives you? Which player gives you more? Because obviously footballers, sometimes they put up a lot of walls. You know, they don't give you very good answers for things.
Football's a sport where I feel like everyone involved has a lot to protect, so they're smart about what they give, which is fair because there's so many sharks out there. So you don't want to disrespect or say something against someone. Everything's a bit vanilla, and that's why the English media is so ruthless. And I'm sure the other the Spanish media and the French media and the Italian media, for instance,
All
Germans
the
as well. They're all the same. It's just different languages. We can't read it if we can't read
they're all
those
the same.
languages. But the English media, they do anything to find a story, and it's because everyone just keeps their cards pretty close to their chest. So, yeah, football doesn't give you like tennis. They probably do too much, so that they've run out of things to say. You run out of things to ask them. It's like, what are you going to ask a guy? 7 different press conferences through the course of a Grand Slam, other than how did you get that done? Like nothing's happened in his life in those 2 days to say, can you talk us about how you went on the train ride down to they live boring lives. So yeah, they give a lot. The cricketers are pretty good because cricket is a sport where there's a lot of thinking to be had, a lot of downtime. They just stand around in a field for 7 days and then 7 hours, and then there's stories that come out of that. So
why do you reckon we're the best in the world at cricket? Like
Australia?
Yeah, because it's very tilted. The way people talk about Australian cricket is very tilted to how we talk about the Brazilians.
Yeah,
in regards to always being in the street playing.
I think it's a culture. We know we're good at it. We're aggressive. We don't. When I say aggressive, we don't back down. We're not subservient. We're not. And India have turned into that. They've realised their place in the world, and that's why they've stood up to international cricket, and they're as good, if not better, than Australia across the board. And England's always had that history. But I mean, we've got that mix of outdoors lifestyle. So it's apart from when you're in Sydney and the cricket's on, it's always raining when cricket's on in Sydney. But it's those factors. It's the accessibility to play the sport, the attitude of not backing down, and the history of it as well. And hopefully, with football, we've got that base of we don't back down. We are together as teams, national teams, but we've got to add layers. I think I'm sick of like having the bedrock of Australian football being a never say die attitude. There's more to it than that. There's got to be more to it.
We've got to outgrow that, I think. Yeah, but even
always have it, but add on top of it.
It's obviously, it can be a power when used correctly. Well, it has been in the past, obviously. But yeah,
when you need it,
you need it.
Like against Peru, the Matildas in various situations that they were pushed up against the wall come up with perhaps their best ever performance against Canada in a game that they couldn't lose in the World Cup in that group game down here in Melbourne. So, hopefully we can add layers to that with the generations coming through.
Have you guys got anything else? I'm all good on my my little notes list here.
Just one last question on other codes. Any run-ins with Nick Kyrgios?
What a random one.
You love
Talk
him,
about
don't
personalities. Like, tennis players giving you something. He always had stories.
Oh, he just gives you a scowl if he can't be bothered with you. He just looks at you as if you minion. So, he's probably right.
He's not right. Probably right. He's not right. You're a legend. Don't listen to him. Me and Nick don't get along. He doesn't know me, but we don't.
But I spent a day with him in Canberra, and he was completely engaging, and no topic was off the record. He was really clear-minded and everything like that. So, he's an individual. I'll say that.
I love this. He entertained me I like tennis, but I would watch because of him. Because
exactly,
he's an entertaining
and
character.
He knows that.
Yeah.
He knows his worth now, and that's what's made him pretty successful financially. I think. I hope he's done well out of tennis. He's got a few endorsements.
Adam, thank you so much, man, coming out here.
Great
Appreciate
show,
it.
Pleasure.
Thank you for being so open and honest. And man, you're a legend. We'll need to keep seeing you on the TVs. Hopefully, well into your life, man. Appreciate everything. All the best for the future. Suited and booted. By the way, like, comment, subscribe, 5 stars. Got Adam Peacock here.
Please.
Come on. Yeah. Let's do it.
I did the math on it.
Yes.
On our numbers. And apparently, out of all the people that listen to our podcast every single week, only 5% of them are subscribed or like or comment.
I did some maths.
That's not good enough.
I did my own maths.
Mathematician.
Apparently, 100% of our listeners aren't subscribed, don't like it, don't do the stars.
How do they listen?
I'm not sure. Stop using illegal streaming sites for Suited and Booted.
Stop fire sticking you.
The fire stick. We're on all the platforms. So
We're in India.
Before you wrap up, all I'll say is keep talking about the things that aren't talked about elsewhere in Australian football.
that's
Yeah.
what we try to do,
Appreciate it,
man.
man.
Get it out there and talk about it.
That's what we try to do,
Yeah,
man.
thank you, man. We appreciate it.
Suited and booted. Adam Peacock, we're
What a
out.
star, man. Ciao.
Cheers, guys.
I should have asked you your thoughts on Gavin's jacket.